I got to work with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for XFL. Like, that guy's the biggest teddy bear ever. I have a lot of health issues. I have Crohn's disease really bad, so I'm here. I'm living. I'm not in a hospital bed, so it could be, I always say it could be a lot worse, you know?
It's honestly one of those stories that like I'm kind of embarrassed about. Pushing in a little tighter than maybe they were comfortable with, and then one of them was just like, bro, back off.
So I have my degree in nursing, which not using that now, unfortunately. I feel like it's just better to be out there and not be afraid to like get your stuff and post it, because it's somebody's gonna like it somewhere, and maybe it takes off.
Dude, if I paid you like $50, would you come, shoot a short little like shredded of me? I was like, heck yeah, dude. $50. That was kind of the gateway into, dude, you can make money with a camera.
I probably work way more than I should, to be honest, but I love it. I still love it so much.
Welcome to the Creators Line podcast. Today we are on episode 3. We got my buddy Nick Mitz on today. He's a super successful cinematographer. Nick got into the creative field really early on, back in like his younger years. He talks about kind of his mom exposing him initially with just photography, funny enough. But now he's a little more video focused. But he had a prominent career with GoPro for a number of years. That blossomed into an agency called the Uncommon Friends that he runs. I was initially exposed to some of his work, just happened to stumble upon it on YouTube. It's called the Beyond Limits series that highlights a really prominent downhill mountain biker named Jackson Goldstone. It's his first year in the elite class, which is like the premier class of downhill mountain biking. So it's a really cool series, kind of being a fly on the wall of what that season looked like for Jackson. That was followed up by a series called In Their Element, which was also affiliated with GoPro. It's all of the GoPro bike athletes, or a lot of them, I should say. But Nick headed off both those projects, super large projects. He talks through, some of the logistics of handling projects at that size, but then also how to work successfully with athletes of that scale. These are some of the guys and gals that are the best in the world at what they do. So it was really interesting to hear Nick's perspective on how to approach that in a successful manner. Nick also did a large project with the Tour de France, which is another really interesting project because they focus a little more on the logistics of the tour rather than, the actual results of it per se. But tons of cameras, lots of individuals on the crew, and he managed and, produced a super rad project that way. But outside of bikes, he also has some really other interesting clients, works with the XFL, a number of other brands and companies that are just doing cool things. So this is a conversation with Nick, and I hope you enjoy it. What up, Nick? Welcome to the podcast, dude. Appreciate having you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Do we have like official name for this podcast?
Okay, well that's something I've been talking to guests about actually.
Okay. It's a question.
It's not official, but I'm kind of leaning towards the name The Creators Line podcast.
Creators Line. Okay, I like that.
What do you think?
I do like that. Yeah.
Okay, pick it apart because it's in that beginning rough draft stage. So
are we doing
open to
just
feedback.
Creators, or are we like bringing some? Obviously, you work with athletes. I work with athletes. Are you bringing athletes on? Is it like you want to like maybe lock yourself into one person that can come onto this like podcast too?
That's a good point. I don't know. Part of me, I did kind of like entertain bringing on some athletes and almost like painting them as artists with like unique mediums almost, you know? Because I do think we were out at Rampage together. Like, dude, those guys, they're creative, in the sense
creators
of like
in their own
building,
sense, right?
Yeah.
We all do content nowadays, so everybody's a creator at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. But no, I don't know. The name's fluid right now. Messing around with a few ideas, but that was kind of one that I was sticking with right now. So
yeah, I like that.
But
I'd
cool.
jive with that.
Sweet, dude. Well, yeah, stoked to have you on the podcast. Just like high level, really curious to pick your brain on your career, because I feel like we've rubbed shoulders. Well, shoot, what was it? It was probably only about a year ago that I feel like I was introduced to you.
Yeah.
But then since then, I've obviously seen your work more and more, rubbed shoulders with you a few times, like at events and whatnot, and all your stuff's freaking awesome. So I'm just like, dude, I need to get a little peek behind Nick's curtain and see what's going on.
Yeah, there's a lot behind there going on at all times. But yeah, this year is like the year of events for sure. Like I think everything mountain bike related, like new, old, yeah, I was everywhere just because I'm sure we'll get into it, but our company manages the GoPro bike channel. So that was like our main drive, is being there like on site live. I mean, GoPro is just big in that space. So being able to like be there with all the athletes that we work with and other ones, like everybody I mean, you see it, everybody runs GoPros or POV cameras for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
At those events, or just in mountain biking in general. So yeah, this was the year of events for sure. I was everywhere around the world.
Yeah, no kidding. It was like every story I saw from you, you're in like a different country, or different mountain or something. So that's wild.
I think total, I think I was there for 17 weeks of the year. I was in Europe this year just for various like events, and then they would all back into like each other, or I'd be there for like 4 days, and it didn't make sense to come home for that long. So I'd just go to the next zone over there in the mountains.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. Well, yeah, I definitely want to dig more into that maybe a little later on, just like how you balance it and how you even manage it. Because logistically, that's a lot on top of creating all the content. So
quite a bit.
Yeah. But let's start like early years. So where'd you grow up? What was your upbringing like? Were you into, camera related creative stuff right out of the jump, or is that something you kind of got into later? But yeah, just kick it off with something like that.
Yeah. We can jump to the little Nick was a hockey player growing up. I played it. We talked about it a little bit, but I played hockey growing up. And then, growing up, my mom had her master's in photography. So I got tossed the camera, 5 years old, 6 years old, film cameras and stuff. So I've always been kind of interested into it. I was the kid that always had the camera with all my friends. So when the newest video cameras came out, when like I think it was like I had the XHA one, but that was like the HVX 200 era, the like VX 100s. Like I always had those cameras, and I was the one kid they'd invite out to shoot because I had all the fancy gear and everything. Yeah. So I got introduced to it early. But the funny thing is, I didn't go to school for that. I went to school for nursing, so I have my degree in nursing, which using that now, unfortunately, but something to fall back on. But yeah, I had my minor in photography. Did like film studies, all that stuff. So it was mainly photo. And then obviously now the landscape has changed a lot with video. So just naturally, I've always had video there as well. It's just, I feel like it's photography, but obviously just moving images. So you think about it a little differently. I think when I was 22-ish, I think is when we moved up to the Bay. That was when we got the job with GoPro. It was a funny story. My wife was applying to be an occupational therapist, and I was applying for GoPro, and we said whoever gets the job first, or included, or what is it, like the offer, we'd go. And I got mine, and then like a few weeks later she got her offer, so we chose to go, and now here we are. So but I was a director of marketing for a real estate agent, running all their content and marketing for a while. I was a Zoomies manager at one point doing retail. Cool. So I've done them all kind of to get up to where I've been today. But and then now, we have our own agency and work a lot in the mountain bike space. We do commercial work, big in the golf industry right now, which has been awesome. I play a lot of golf, so not a bad place to be.
Not at all.
Yeah,
that beats climbing a mountain too. The heavy pack, right? You got a little golf cart.
I don't know. It's different. It's different vibes. Like golf's much slower. Get to go cool places, but I mean, shoot, you can't really beat like the Alps and the Dolomites and a lot of those places. So
that makes sense.
Different things, different types of shooting.
Yeah, visually it's a trade-off. Physically, a little more demanding, maybe.
A little more demanding, but I feel like in some ways rewarding. Like I said, different styles of shoots for sure. Like golf stuff's more commercial for sure, and then we'll dive into, I'm sure, the mountain bike stuff. But did a lot of dock work there, so I've been chasing the boys around for the World Cup season and madness over there. Did Dark Fest, did what's the one in Swatch Night, or not Swatch now, is it? Swatch Nines now. It used to be Audi Nines. Yeah. So did Swatch Nines in Solden. That was insane. So all sorts of crazy stuff this year.
That's cool. That's super rad. going back a little bit, who got you into hockey, and where'd you grow up? Was it California, like Southern
Yeah,
California?
sorry, I
There?
didn't touch on that. Yeah, I grew up in Southern California, in San Bernardino. So I was a 909er, lifted white trucks, and yeah,
Yeah.
bleach blonde hair for the girls, and
There you
that
go.
was the zone. But yeah, grew up there, at the base of the mountain next to like Big Bear and Wrightwood.
Cool.
And then yeah, played hockey because my grandpa and uncle played it. And then yeah, I started skating when I was 2, I think, and then was playing hockey by 3, and then played
Dang.
all the way up until I was like 20. So long time of playing hockey, and still
Yeah.
to this day try to get out there like a couple times a year. But we have kids, so we have twins, and they're getting into it now, which I'm getting excited for.
That's
They've been
sick.
to a few games, and yeah, they love it. So
That's
hoping
cool.
maybe one of them takes it on.
Yeah, that's super rad. Okay, that makes sense. So uncle, grandpa got you into hockey, mom got you into photo work right
Yeah.
off the bat.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool that you're still doing both those two things at like a relatively high level too, it sounds
Right.
like.
Yeah.
Right?
Hockey not so much anymore, but
Yeah.
I
But
wish.
you took it pretty far, it sounds like.
I
So
did, yeah. Went to college, like got up to the college range, had scouts, and then yeah, I hit a big I have a lot of health issues, have Crohn's disease really bad, so dealt with that since I was 8 months old, and yeah, that's
oh
always
wow.
been a bit of a damper on the career and life in general. I've had a lot of like highs and lows for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm here. I'm living. I'm not in a hospital bed, so it could
Oh
be. I
yeah.
always say it could be a lot worse.
No kidding. And I feel like when someone looks at what you do, that I don't think they would ever guess that anything like that's slowing you down, you know?
No.
Like, you're not
Yeah.
letting it. So good on you.
Yeah. A lot of days are not great, I should say. Like I'm definitely put a mask on most days, and yeah, I
Mm.
mean, I think Crankworks at Whistler, I was actually in the hospital during a good 2 days of
No
that
way.
because I got crazy dehydrated, and yeah, I was dealing with.
Shoot.
I had surgery like 3 during pandemic. I had surgery. I had an ostomy, so they took out I think a portion of my intestine and then my
Oh
colon.
wow.
So I have an ostomy bag now, and yeah, it's things to deal with. But again, like I could be at that point, I was 100 pounds, and
Oh wow.
yeah, not great spot. But and then
Yeah.
a year later, I was climbing the Pyrenees and running around.
Dude,
So
that's insane.
yeah,
I had no idea. That's wild.
a lot of people don't. I kind of keep it like it's there. I mean, you could sit there and think about those things all day and let it destroy you, but you got to just I'm just push myself. And that's usually when I end up in the hospitals, when I push myself too too
Push
hard.
too hard.
Yeah, I just go. My wife's like, "You're gonna end up in the hospital." I was like, "No, we'll be fine. I'll be good." And then yeah, sure enough, like Christmas hits and off season of bike times, and yeah, I do like a week in the hospital. We call that my vacation now, and then I'm back on the road again. So
Jeez, bro. That's insane. And is it usually like dehydration related then that gets you in the hospital, or just like exhaustion?
yeah, exhaustion or I just get flare ups really bad. So internally, like stomach issues. Yeah, I just get to a point where I just run myself ragged. Lack of sleep. I have crazy insomnia at times. So it does like
Dang.
cater to this production world because I mean, as you know, dude, we're on 20-hour days and
Yeah.
little sleep and gotta wake up the
Brutal
next day and
hours.
do it all over again. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's a blessing and a curse in a way, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's usually dehydration and exhaustion, and then they give me a couple meds and fluid me up, and I'm good for another year. So
Yeah. You punch your punch pass and
yeah,
say
yeah,
see you
it's
next time.
expensive holiday. I'd rather go to like
Ugh.
Tahiti or somewhere tropical, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take it to travel the world and do what I've got to do in life. So
That's wild. Dang, that's wild. Cool. Well, shoot. From there, I guess you kind of touched on it. So, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I think in general too. But you have your agency, right? And then do you entertain anything just as like a solo, like freelance creative, or do you funnel everything to agency?
yeah, I think by way of taxes and paper, you go LLC
Everything
is
to
where
agency.
it's at. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I have an LLC. So our company's called the Uncommon Friends or Uncommon Friends, but I think the
Cool.
LLC name is the Uncommon Friends. And on paper it's just me, but I probably work with 10 to 15 contractors that I kind of have in like a repertoire of a book.
Okay.
And I just make friends. I mean, I've worked with so many people over the years, and I mean, there's so many creative people out there, and you shoot some insane photos. So
Thanks.
people like you that I just try to keep in like my back pocket of like when jobs come through. I've never tried to, which bites me sometimes, but I never say no. Typically, I always bring it in. Just the relationships mean a lot to me, and that's how I've made my connections and contacts, is meeting people like yourself. And then, everybody's doing cool things, so it's like, I feel like we all can help each other in some way. And the whole purpose of Uncommon Friends was to almost create like a collective. So when GoPro got kind of disbanded during pandemic, they did a big layoff. I was a part of that. We had a media team of like 150, I think, at one point, and then it got down to like 30, and then just kept dwindling a little bit. And yeah, they let a good chunk of us go, but kind of like we all still help out and work there. They're still one of my main clients. We run their GoPro bike channel now, but I always had this vision of like, we all do the same thing. We're all going to the same goal. We all have contacts of sorts. Like, I do a lot of mountain biking. That's just where I've fallen into, but I have friends that are very much in the sports space of like soccer, hockey. I love those things. So
Yeah.
I don't have a big portfolio for that to go show like a Nike or, an Adidas or some, big, huge brand that I'd want to work for. So it's like, how can we work together to pitch things that like, hey, I would really like to do this. Can we pair up to like pitch these projects? So it's like, how can you utilize my assets? Like if you, for instance, wanted to go do a big mountain bike project and you've never worked for mountain biking, and we work constantly together, we have a good, conversation partnership. I'm always down to like figure out the idea and like help you try to get those jobs too, by way of like, if you need to use our content and you want to come under the roof of like Uncommon Friends, like it's more of like a collective, and I'd rather just have cool projects. And like,
Yeah.
it's almost like Uncommon Friends is just the name of it all, but like there's a whole bunch of us that are underneath like creating it, so we're still kind of building it out in a way. But that's the ultimate goal, is to almost have like a running vendor list or contact list of like who Uncommon Friends is, and then, hey, here's all the things that our crew has done. Like whatever you need, we can kind of like take it on, whether it's commercial, doc, POV perspectives, like whatever that may be. It's like, I try to find somebody for each of those buckets that like, whenever we get an inquiry of a client, it's like, yeah, let's do it. We got somebody perfect for you,
Yeah. That's cool. So it's kind of the one-stop shop for all things creative, kind of tailored. Is it tailored more towards like sport-oriented content, or it's more broad than that too?
We push. I mean, we've always just being at GoPro, like, so I guess I could touch on that. GoPro, I was in the outdoor and adventure space. So it was mountain bikes, skydive, like kayaking. So I've just naturally kind of fallen into that. I think if I had a choice, I would have gone like football, hockey, like those, because that was my like heart. But
Yeah.
I mean, now we actually were like, we had worked with the XFL when they got brought back up. We were like their premier media crew that was doing all the media for them externally. So that was cool. So we've like naturally fallen back into those spaces of team sports. But we do a lot of like, mom and pop shops that are here for like car detailing businesses and,
Cool.
bakeries or whatever. But we just those aren't like our forefront. Like we put our action sports stuff and stuff up front just because that's what we enjoy to do, but we're not going to like say no to Sally Joe that's got some rad cupcake shop that we want to help out. And like, if we believe in it, we always will go after and help people out. So
That's sick. That's super rad. And to, I guess, kind of wind back too a little bit, when you started the Uncommon Friends, was that something you started pretty early on and it's developed into this, or was this a post GoPro kind of venture that you kicked off? What did that look like timeline wise?
yeah, it's always kind of been there. I've never had like an official name for it. It was just Nick Mitzenmacher photography, videography, cinematography for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that just pushed me later just to create an actual business name. But I've always had kind of like side things going on. Like GoPro is very specific in what we did and what we like shot. But I always just enjoyed working with companies outside of that, just for my personal, well-being of doing something a little different, not just sticking to one thing. So it's been nice to like be outside of that wall. Like I'd say a good chunk of our stuff is still like POV oriented. Like we work with Red Bull quite a bit and doing stuff for a lot of their stuff as like POV specialists. So it is cool to like have that niche. It's just another camera, but there's like a technique to it to like get the best angles and know how to like properly use it. But it's just another tool in the bag that I see. It's like a fun, unique experience to shoot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always kind of been there, and then we just kind of flipped the switch on it once
Okay.
we separated from GoPro.
I see. Cool. No, that's sweet. So I'm gonna keep winding back, I guess.
Yeah,
But what was like
jumping.
first ever paid gig that you had?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I can tell you about mine. It's actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
So
You lead me with yours, and then I'll think about it as we're going.
you throw it around, but so I kind of got into the space late, I feel like, because all through high school I was big into team sports.
Okay.
So grew up doing baseball, got really into basketball. That kind of became like my bread and butter. Did a little bit of track. I even dabbled with like cross country for a year. I got like bullied into it, and dude, I hate running. So the only reason I didn't quit was just because I didn't want to like have that on my
Not a quitter.
reputation. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to ever quit out of a season of anything. But anyways, it wasn't until I was 20, I think, that I saw my sister start messing with action cameras. And you're going to slap me, but it was the Sony action cameras.
Okay. No, it was one of the ones out there. Yeah. People were, we all had our different cams we used.
Yep. It wasn't the GoPro. And I think that's maybe another element that even caught my eye even more. I was like, what the heck is this little camera, And she's like, oh, telling me all about it. And she was just filming like super casual, like family home video stuff. Like we'd all go on vacation. She'd chop it up in this like pirated version of Final Cut that she had. And I was like, dude, that looks super cool. Cause I had always been into art and like doodling and creative work and painting and stuff like that, like pretty casually, just because I never saw it as like a viable career, But then I saw what she was doing. I was like, dude, that looks kind of neat. Got into it more and more. Next thing you know, I was getting into the Adobe stuff, whatever it looked like. And we started filming like casual, I don't know, more family vacation stuff. Anyways, ended up turning into my brother's buddy was big into moto. And it was like at our local track. He was like, dude, if I paid you like $50, would you come, shoot a short little like shredded of me? I was like, heck yeah, dude.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. So just me out there. I think at that point I had like a Sony 6300 or something. That and probably some janky little gimbal, but just chase my friend's buddy around the track for a few hours and cut it up. And then that was kind of the gateway into, dude, you can make money with a camera.
Right.
And like, who knew? So
right.
It's super minor, but I laughed that one of my first gigs was kind of like an action sports related thing. Cause then I didn't really touch it until a few years later.
But, right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I already had like their different cameras in the beginning. It's funny too, because technology's come such a far way. It's like I looked up, this was like a good exercise to go back. You're like, find some good stuff that you've done. Man, I was going back in the archives of like I think it was like the Canon HV30 on like the DV tapes. Like I actually busted that camera out recently because there's like a flow of like the trendy old school look now of VHS. Like that's coming back around right now. Like I just bought a Super 8 and yeah, it's a style that's coming back, but it was a good exercise to look back on where we all started, which would be like a fun one to like dive in maybe on a separate one of like, let's look at old things and dissect like where you were before and now where you are today.
Yeah. What was going through your head when you're blowing out every shot?
Yeah. Like we did, like I saw one that was like, it was called Scootering to the Max. And it was like, we were in Florida, like flip flops on, like doing jumps, like 1 foot off the ground over like puddles. And we like had like Linkin Park on it. I don't even know, dude. It was before licensed music was a thing. It's come a long way. And I'm 36. So I've seen it kind of from like, I think one of our first digital cameras my mom gave me was a Sony Minolta, I think it was. Or Monica or something. It shot on floppy disks. I held 5 photos. It was 2 megapixels, and at that time you're like, holy shit, 2 megapixels. Like, and now we're what? We got Hasselblads that are shooting 100 megapixels, and it's
crazy.
It's come a long way. But I mean, I've done the 4x5s, and done all the cameras to kind of like learn the ins and outs. I'm very techie too. Like I enjoy the tech side of it, but first paid gig. Ooh, I think it was high school. Like I I would help out with like yearbook, but I didn't want to be on yearbook. I would do my own things. I would go shoot skate stuff. I think I've shot stuff for like local skate shops. A lot of it was trades in the beginning, was like how I always, and I
Yeah.
still to this day will like, I don't want to say it's like, I'm not trying to be an influencer, but like if there's brands that I enjoy, I'll always reach out and say like, how can we partner? Like, how can I prove my worth to you? And if it's me going to buy your product and show you that I can shoot that before you like give me work, like I'm down to do that because I trust in products. F-Stop's one of those brands that has done that where I mean, I love their bags and you'll see them everywhere in the mountain bike community, but they're one that I bought them initially and then I've just always stuck with them. And now I work with them and talk with the owner of the company that started it all the time. And yeah, like
Awesome.
their bags are just insane. So it's fun when you find a product you like. But yeah, I think early on it was like high school stuff, like skate shops. I did a lot of skate stuff and then slowly worked into, I think I worked with, who's the watch company? They're still around.
Movement?
Shark. No, it was before Movement. Shark was their like, Body Gloves owner's son used to work for him. I can't remember what it was, but it was a watch company I used to like help out with. And then it was like high school buddies that would call. So I would like go up to Mountain High a lot and like get like free lift tickets. So it was more like trades, how I
Yeah.
could like get to do my fun things as like a hobby, but also like go shoot partially with it too, which still to this day happens.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it was like, there was a click at one point and I did a lot of photo like growing up. It wasn't so much video until maybe end of high school was like when I started getting paid for a lot of video work. There was a year where I did just weddings, which I think a lot of us have touched. Like it's a good kind of like stepping stone for a lot of videographers to just like shoot a lot. And there's always people getting married. So, you can give away weddings for cheap and people, if you're good at it, you just keep getting hired. And that's when you start like raising your prices slowly. And that's where I worked. I mean, I did weddings for like $200 before. And a burrito maybe or some dinner that night, like, but and then I've done weddings for $8,000, so it's the disparity between the two. It's a slow growth, but if you're good at it, and I think with the accessibility now more than ever, it's like you see the influx of creators and how creative people are. I just think people didn't have the tools, 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I had a camera in my hand to like really push themselves because it was expensive. Like I think that Sony camera was $3,000 at the time, and that was pricey, And now what? $3,000 camera almost buys you with Black Magic. It buys you a full cinema camera.
Yeah.
So tech has come a long way since I was first getting paid for jobs.
That's super cool. Yeah, that's funny that you did weddings too, because the last episode I did was with a guy named Bryce Harper Smith, and we chat about weddings for probably way too long. Because he did them for quite a while. I did them for not super long, but enough to realize like
it's not what you want to do.
Yeah, like no slander to wedding videographers, right? But like it's a grind.
It's a grind.
Like those are long days.
Very long days.
I feel like for me, I'm a little more introverted, so like the social aspect, I'm not super comfortable like meeting people in that setting and whatnot. But no, you learn your camera super, super well because, those moments are somewhat high pressure in a sense, right? Because like they're only happening that one day. You can't, have people restage a ton of stuff.
No. But. Yeah. That's why I think it's a good step. It's like a very good intro to it. Like I seconded a lot to start, and then it slowly just worked into me like taking on my own. It's just like natural progression for, I feel like a lot of video guys you talk to, they don't talk about their wedding career.
Yeah.
But at some point I think we've all like shot one or seconded one or like, but like you're exactly right. Like the pressure of it, it's like you can't miss the first kiss and they don't get to dance again and they don't cut that cake again.
Yeah, exactly. You can't undo the cut.
Yeah. There's a lot of things. I enjoyed them though. I did some like Indian weddings and some cool Vietnamese ones where they were like 5 days long and like you're really into it, and those ones are fun. But I mean, it was cool to see it, all the different styles and things going on. So
I did. That reminds me, I did a Polynesian one in Vegas that was similar, where it was like very different culture, right? And then all of a sudden the shots get way more interesting, or at least maybe more engaging, because you're like, oh, this is just new looks, like new events, new traditions, new whatever, and then it kind of like reignited a little bit of creativity, I think, for me. But
Yeah, the traditions are what like caught me. Like the Vietnamese one had like or maybe it wasn't Vietnamese, but the like lion dancing that was happening. And at one point they had like the 14. There was one that was like a 15-hour day, and they would bring meals out every 20 to 30 minutes. And they would like dance with them on like platters. I mean,
oh
they were
wow,
bringing like full blown meals and like drinks
dang.
all night long. And yeah, it was
Yeah,
a party for sure. But it was till like 2 in the morning of just food coming out constantly and dancing. And the photos were sick, but
yeah.
I was gassed for like 3 days after that.
Oh man, that
Yeah.
sounds brutal. Long day.
Yeah.
That's cool that you seconded too. Did you have like a mentor that kind of got you into it initially, or was it just, a few homies here and there that you pick their brains on?
Yeah, it was always like I have, by the grace of God, always found cool contacts that have always just, and I still remain actually in touch with a lot of them. Like the one guy I used to second with a lot he was the Body Glove owner, like the owner of Body Glove. His son I used to work
Okay.
with a lot. And he would bring me on a few second shoots, and then I still talk with him every so often these days. And then yeah, I just have like always been passed to like the next one, and then got referred to somebody, and then have like made more connections. So a lot of it's just connections over time that you start to make. And then I've always just been one to keep in touch or try to with everybody, even if it's just like a hello. Like I don't need anything from you, but like I just like to keep a big group of friends that like, everybody's doing cool things. There's always so much time in
Yeah.
the day to say hi to everybody, but
Oh yeah.
I try to make it like a mission to like reach out to people that I haven't talked to at least like, once a year, just to say what's up, thinking about you, dude, or, girl or whatever, and just say, miss you, or maybe it
Yeah.
spurs a lot of them spurred into projects more than anything. I'm like, hey, what's up, like what's going on? And they're like, oh, it's been good, man, like just doing that. Like, actually, you know what, I actually have this cool project you could be on. And then
Oh cool.
2 months later we're somewhere random doing some cool project. And yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's cool. I feel like that's so important to like have a homie, right? That can kind of like help you out. I feel like for me it was probably more YouTube,
Yeah.
where I was just like constantly looking things up. But then even then, I feel like further in my career, like one example I think of, it was my first time shooting Supercross in Salt Lake. Linked up with the Align With Us guys, and they're all super rad. But I was unprepared. Like at that point, I feel like I was decent at shooting.
Okay.
Like I knew my way around the camera and the lenses and whatnot. But I just didn't even think about like weather.
Okay. Yeah.
I just showed up and started shooting, doing my thing. And the day was freaking hot. Like I was fending off a
Supercross
sunburn.
is a grind. I did that for 2 years, and yeah, it's a
Oh yeah.
grind.
Yeah, I'm sure you got stories from that, but yeah, it goes pretty well all throughout the day, and then into the main it just starts dumping rain.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't have a single camera bag,
Oh
raincoat,
no.
nothing. Yeah, I was just like
Did the
fully
camera
stranded.
survive?
I know. And so then I started worrying about my camera. I'm like, oh man, I got to get these shots, blah, 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 whatever. And his name's Adam with Align With Us. He saw me struggling. I was like, bro, do you have a bag? And he's like, oh, let me run back. And he like runs to the media room in the middle of the main, comes out with a bag that was like a little too small, but it like worked,
Works, yeah.
I slapped that on. And then there was some other gal there that I didn't even catch her name, but she was shooting for another media outlet. She's like, I have a few bags, and tossed them to me or whatever. And I was just like, dang, this like probably saved my night, or at
Yeah.
least my gear. But it was nice to know that like there were some more experienced individuals in that arena that were not like too selfish or too focused on their own
Right.
project, which would have been totally like understandable, I think.
Right.
But they took a moment to like, yeah, help me out,
out.
toss me some bags, and build a few connections for the rookie that had no idea what was going on there,
Yeah.
But,
I always get excited when like that happens, because it's, if I can like change somebody, or not change them, but like teach them something, or like become friends like later on, and like maybe a project comes of that, and like, or I can help them with questions they have, like I'm always willing. Like that's, I think, more of a reward to me than like putting out a cool project, is like if I could help someone like somewhere in their career, and then like 5 years down the road they're like doing commercials, and it was like off, just a small thing that they like, it helped them push them further, or whatever it is. Like there's a few kids that I've worked with over the years that have gone on, and like, they're doing bigger things now, but it was like small conversations that started. And yeah, it's like the mentor side of it's cool. Like if I could just do that and like help shoot occasionally and pick and choose what I wanted, like I would prefer to do that all day. It's just fun to see like I've had really good experiences, thankfully, and I've met a lot of really cool people. So I think going back to like the uncommon friends thing, like that's really the whole purpose. Like I guess the name of Uncommon Friends is actually really interesting too, because it's off of a book. I actually took it from my friend's dad. He has a racing team called Uncommon Friends.
Oh, cool.
And dude, it's so hard to find a name for a company these days. It's not
Oh,
taken
yeah.
by trademark or
Yeah,
so I'd
for
asked him, I
real.
was like, can I name it this? But it's off of a book, and you could probably look it up because I'm probably gonna get this wrong. It's like Henry Ford, Firestone, Lundenberg, and two other people. And they're people from different communities or different walks of life, and they created this group called Uncommon Friends. It's a true story, or by a book or whatever. But they created like a group called Uncommon Friends because they're all from like different cycles of life or different industries.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it's kind of a cool name for like a creative sense, because like you do photos, or so and so does animation, or this guy does like commercial work. It's like how all together it just kind of like we are all kind of uncommon in different
Yeah.
regards, but at the end of the day, like we're all just trying to make it and have fun and do cool things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And kind of like help each other out, elevate, maybe add a little bit of like area of expertise in a given field, and just like elevate the group, right?
Yeah, more than anything, like I said, the mentor side, or if I can pass on a job to somebody or whatever it is, like that's super cool to me that they get to go do stuff too, because I've been blessed to do a lot of really cool things in my lifetime. So
Yeah, that's sick. Do you get very many like DMs randomly of like picking your brain or asking advice? Is that anything you see very often?
more or less, I'm not really on this. I do enough social for everybody else.
Yeah, yeah.
I get tired of it by the end of the day. I always get in like swings of it, like, oh, I'm gonna just start posting like every day for like the next month and see what happens, and then I do it. Start 5 days in, and I'm done. So, yeah, I get them like here and there, but I just don't post a lot. I'm starting to post like a bit more behind the scenes and stuff, but
Mm,
yeah, it's
that
just
makes
so
sense.
hard, dude. It's like I got twins now, and it's just not enough time of the day to do all the work. Plus, like
Yeah,
I want to spend time with them and not be like in here, and I run myself in the ground already. So I love it. It's like a love-hate relationship with work, but
yeah,
yeah, there's social's a funny thing. it's
100%.
it's a funny thing, but
Yeah, you need a few clones of yourself to
you
get
do,
everything that
yeah.
you want done.
Yeah, I guess
No,
that's what they say about building businesses. You build somebody that can basically be you when you're gone. So
yeah, yeah, no kidding. No, that's cool. So first paid gig, something like that. Then how quickly did you get the GoPro gig?
yeah,
Were there a few
so
creative jobs in between, or?
yep. So high school, let's see, high school went, college. I was like doing the nursing thing. I was doing weddings in there.
Okay.
As soon as that ended, college, I graduated. We had got a house out in San Bernardino, and I was working at Zoomies, and I was like a marketing director for a real
Okay.
estate agency down in Ranch Cucamonga. And then a job opportunity came up. I had a buddy. It's really funny. So when I went to my nursing school, he took the marketing path in college and did a lot of video stuff. He's a very creative dude. His name's Davis Paul, and I'm still buddies with him today. I just did a shoot with him like a few months ago actually and saw him. But he's doing big things. Like he has a big agency out in New York, and I had kind of taught him just because I had the camera, so I was always the guy like, you want to come shoot snowboarding with us and this and that. So he was always very intrigued on that side, and I had kind of taught him a lot of the like nitty gritty techie stuff. Like at one point, I think Facebook gives you those like random like 15 years ago this happened. It was
Yeah.
like he had wrote me a message like, how do you get slow motion with like 60i footage? And like I was like, oh, you need to do this in Final Cut, and like
Mm,
it's kind of funny. And then when college hit, I did the like nursing thing, and we flip flopped sort of after. So he really took off with video. I went my nursing route, and then he got a job at GoPro. He was the lead of team sports, and he had hit me up, hey man, I got a job. Like it's a way to get your foot in the door. It's for this like user generated department GoPro starting up. It's brand new. There's only like one person right now. They're trying to build it out.
mm,
So I'd actually applied for another job for like a post production coordinator, and I didn't get it. And then I came back like 3 months later and applied for that job and got it right away. So
cool.
I was in this like user generated group, and it was when GoPro is on its like high at that point. So our like goal was to scour the internet, find contents. Like you said, you had like a Sony action cam. If you had a GoPro at the time, let's say you posted some moto content, we'd go, oh, that was really sick. Like, how can we help you better be a creator? And maybe this is why I enjoy the mentorship side of it, is that we would take a lot of creators in there that maybe like the one that comes to mind always is there was this girl that like did this squirrel video with like, I don't know, the squirrel grabbed a nut in the camera, and we wanted to tell like a more of a story of it because she would do it every day with the squirrel.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we're like, okay, well, let's add to this. Like, how can we do that? We can't go to all these places in the world. Let's like call her up. So we got on the phone with her. We gave her kind of like a shot list. Here's settings. We were like teaching those people how to be filmmakers in a way. And then she
Okay.
went on like after that to submit like multiple videos to like our awards program at that point. And she just got better and better each time. So we had like multiple things of that where we would scour the internet, and they would get rewarded with via cameras. I think at one point it was like every 100,000 views they'd get $1,000, or every million views they get $1,000. And there was like there's one that's like Fireman Kitten that got like I think it's like 50 million, maybe more now. So they got paid a ton in the beginning. So
Yeah.
but yeah, then slowly from that transformed into the outdoor adventure sports area. So then I was
Okay.
bike was my main thing.
Gotcha. That's
Which
cool.
was cool.
I didn't know you were in the UGC stuff. So that's interesting. Did you get a lot of inbound requests from people? Like, what was it always outbound? Was it always you guys researching, finding people doing cool stuff, hitting them up, or did you ever have the opposite where you were getting like pitched?
It was both. Yeah, it was both. So
Okay.
obviously there was like the athlete side of it, and those GoPro had like their team or like sponsored athletes. And then they had
Yeah.
events and stuff that content would come in. So there's these like pillars. There's AGC, which is athlete generated. There was like event partnerships, and then there was this UGC bucket. And so it was both. It was really more of things. I guess it still was action sports because there was a lot of like people that weren't athletes we'd find content of too that were doing mountain biking things or snowboarding or wingsuiting, and we'd reach out for content. So it really was like it was a content play more than anything. We knew there was tons of content. Everybody had GoPros. It was like before other action cams came into like the mix really. Sony was there, but wasn't like a big thing at that point.
Yeah.
GoPro just kind of like took off. It was when YouTube boomed. So like it was soaring. I saw it through like the IPO days, and like, yeah, stock was at $90, and yeah, it was cool. It was like such a good experience, and the people in there, like, I don't think I'll ever find a crew that creative ever again, like that amount of people in like one space that all had very creative brains. That will always like stick with me, and to this day I still talk with a lot of them. I still work with them actually. We do jobs, and they're all different companies, so that's
Yeah.
been nice because now I help out with like all the brands in different places, which is cool. But
Yeah. That's rad.
yeah, we had inbound and outbound. We had like like contests that would get inbound stuff, and then we'd
Okay.
see, and those would spark conversations. But a lot of it was like just we had like docs and docs and docs of like we would just like we'd spend a couple hours a day just scouring Vimeo, we'd scour YouTube, like any site we could figure video on that had POV. It was most likely GoPro. So we had a lot of really cool stories come from that, like this pelican that some guy had mounted on its beak and flew around, like
Jeez.
full story, like a full 10-minute story piece came from that. And
Oh, wow.
they taught this pelican to like fish again. So there's footage of it like learning to fish and like grab fish out of the water, and then they released it. But now it just comes back to the island all the time because it's so used to it.
Yeah.
So a lot of really
That's
cool
interesting.
projects that like spurred up from that, from like the user generated side. And you see it now, like there's the ad side of things that'll always be there, but it's the stuff that like really intrigues you, those like authentic moments from user generated stuff that like it just feels organic, I guess. So you
Yeah.
like it more sometimes. It doesn't feel like in your face.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like GoPro kills that. Like I always think of, I don't, the last one I think of is like this like Asian kid in like a laundry basket or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
getting like
pushing
yanked,
them
and
like a
he's like,
roller coaster.
yeah, and he's like super stoked, like that kind of like angle and reaction oftentimes is almost, for me, it was like more impressionable than like the big, freestyle moto whip.
Right.
Of
You've
like
seen it. Everybody's seen it. It's just, yeah,
yeah.
and it's creative angles. Like that was the coolest part of GoPro was like the creative angles that people would find that you like never had thought of before, or would stick it inside of like a tire and spin around. Or when 360 came out, that was like a whole new world of like creativeness that would happen. Like saw one guy hit like a mega ramp with like a wheelbarrow and like flip the wheelbarrow, but by way of 360 cam, like the horizon stays, so the wheelbarrow like went around the camera.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was pretty cool. Like, but it was things like that, and then like the other side of it was like authentic moments, because which I'm sure everybody has dealt with this at some point, is when you run GoPros, you like mount them, and more often than not, you'd forget they're running just because they're so small. And some of those moments were like, what came of that? Like one that comes to mind is like Kelly McGarry's backflip over Rampage in 2015, 16. It's like the most viewed GoPro video. But it was like a third or fourth place run. He like, I think it was over the 72-foot canyon gap at that point. But like you hear him breathing really heavy. I think he's like talking to himself at some point. It's like long lens traditional cameras will never get that.
Yeah.
GoPros have always like, and you have to you sift through. I think at one point we had a couple petabyte server, which is what, 1,000
my
terabytes
goodness.
per petabyte. So
Wow.
sift through a lot of content, but that was where I think you found those like unique moments of like people expressing real emotions during times, because again, like you have a big lens in your face, you're not gonna, some people turn robotic because they're like conditioned to do that, but with a GoPro on, you almost forget sometimes that it's there, and then those are the moments that really like people, it tugs at the heartstrings, or you get that like organic, authentic moment.
That's cool. That's super cool. That's interesting. That reminds me of this story. At RE Bikes, we sponsored Chris Burkhardt.
Yeah.
So we've had him in-house like quite a few times, and a few cool conversations just like at lunch or like in between events or whatever with him. And one story that he shared that I thought was really interesting was, have you seen that photo it's like in his portfolio, it's like, it looks almost like a vintage Land Cruiser or something. One guy's like pulling a surfboard off the top, there's snow, and
It's in
someone
like Iceland or
wrote
Greenland,
surf.
right? I think.
Yeah.
I think
Someone
I know
like
what you're
wrote
talking about.
surf on the back glass.
Okay.
It's one of those like really iconic Burkhardt photos that I
Yeah.
feel like you see quite a bit from him. But he was sharing the story on how that photo came about. He said he shot it, but when he shot it, he was like, this is like a throwaway image,
Right.
So then he goes off to shoot all the surf stuff, and guys getting barreled in wherever it was, like Greenland or Iceland or whatever. Ends up coming back. It had been like, I think a decent amount of time. Maybe, someone can correct me if they know the details of the story better, but it was like an intern or some other employee at the studio that was digging through the archives of footage from like the last few months of shoots or years of shoots or whatever. And this gal had stumbled upon it, and she was like, this is actually like pretty rad from like a storytelling aspect, like great composure, great this, great whatever. Kind of like reignited it or resurfaced it maybe. And now all of a sudden it's like a key portfolio piece. Yeah, Burkhardt was like, that is cool. Like, how did we miss this? And it just took a new set of eyes, and then maybe the ambition to just like dig back through the archives, kind of like you're saying, of like,
Right.
The canyon backflip's sick, but what happened before, what happened after? Were there like
Right.
moments that were worth kind of capitalizing on?
Yeah. I feel like you almost like, with the social aspect, everything's moving so fast. Like I bought a Leica Q2, which way more than I need to spend on a camera for that, for what it is. But it's like caused me to slow down again, because I think with the way like tech is now, I mean, you could go out and fire off 2,000 photos, and I mean, you have a high end camera too. Like those things shoot 30 frames a second, and you're just ripping photos off, and you maybe use 32th of them to give to the client, if that.
If you're super
5
efficient.
come from it, that you're like, yes, these are the ones. But like
Yeah.
it's digital, but it just feels very film. But like slowing down now has been kind of fun to like go back to the roots a little bit and like really understand, which is like that photo probably is. And I think like that shows only that like video and or art is really what all this is like very subjective as to what it is. It's like that banana that got taped to the canvas. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Where it like sold for like hundreds of thousands of dollars, but like somebody saw that as cool art and they bought it, and that's who knows,
Yeah.
man? Like, it's very subjective. So
Yep.
to
In the
you,
eye
it
of
could
the
look
beholder.
cool. And yeah, or even at the time, like maybe there's just tons of good photos that came from that set. And that one just didn't stand out. But, 5 years later, when you look at it, you're like, wow, this one actually like really feels like, good.
Hmm.
Like why did we pass this up? But it probably just was amidst other, he's an insane photographer. So I'm
Oh yeah.
sure there didn't lack, good photos that surrounded that one when they passed it over.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a catalog of bangers, and that one just kind of slipped through the cracks. But
Yeah. Do you have
and
like a photo or a moment that's like ever like stood out to you of like the one you always remember that like maybe didn't like make a cut? Like obviously there's like, because I have like director's cuts and like things that I love that maybe it's like client wants something, but I want something else. But anything that ever
yeah,
like stuck out to you?
that's a good question. I'd have to like maybe dig through
Dig.
some of my work a little bit more, but I think one thing that's like on the top of my mind right now is Rampage. Just because that was my first one I'd ever
Oh, okay.
shot, which was fun. That's why I was picking your brain so much of like, dude, how do I not get in an area where I'm gonna get yelled at?
Yeah. Well, let me start. Hold on. What was like because that's like my question is like, okay, I've done it. That was my eighth one when I saw you this year.
Okay,
What was your like first impressions of it? Because that place is a spectacle.
dude, it was so sick. It was like everything I hoped it would be, and then some, like 100%. And I feel like I'm not like a dramatic person in the sense of I'm gonna say that about a lot of things, but 100%, it was one of those events that I'm like, dude, I would love to get back to, and shoot consistently. And I'm trying to, in my head, think like, well, how could I be part of like an actual crew and be there through more of the dig days or get better access in these moments or whatever that looks like. But no, I think so. That was my first one I've shot. That was my first one I've ever seen in person too. Like I had never gone out to the venue to even just to
Okay.
spectate. So we got there. It wasn't like the first dig days, but it was early on, maybe like day 3 or 4. So walking up and down the mountain, obviously the scale of it is insane, broadcast or the clips never do anything justice. So
No.
then when you're out there seeing it, you're like actually experiencing the exposure, where
Right.
you're like trying to
Big.
finagle
Yeah, it's a little
around little
scary.
clips. And yeah, so that's obviously something that leaves a big impression on you. One thing that, as I've reflected on it, that I've thought about a lot is like the rider's skills are insane, first and foremost. Like those guys' mental toughness is wild. Their like air awareness is always sick, and like the tricks and the popping off the lips and all that. But I think that's something that I almost like kind of expected to be kind of like dazzled with. One area that I wasn't expecting was like the speed management of the riders, And I know I'm kind of getting off topic of like creative work, but dude, how they can like land, shut it down so fast, and then recompose for the next feature, I was like blown
Crazy.
away by,
Yeah.
you know?
It's a lot of management on that thing. Especially, yeah, I don't think people, like you said, it's one thing you see it on TV. It's one thing when you get there and see it from the ground, like base level or base camp or whatever. And then when you go stand
Mm-hmm.
on top of it, I mean, the drops are 50, 60 feet and you're exposed 200 feet on each side with like loose gravel. And I mean, they do as much as they can in 8 days. I guess, yeah, people that don't know, like if this is creative. I don't know if this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
your big mountain bike community. Like Rampage is the mecca of free ride mountain biking. It's in Utah. I call it the Super Bowl free ride. Like it's
For
insane.
sure.
It's 8 days in the desert. You get what, 3 people? You get your rider and 2 diggers, and then a cameraman that can also dig with you, I think is the rule. But you really only ride for 4 days, and it's a 1 day of event. You get 2 runs, and it's just pure insanity from where it started to where it is now. But I mean, it's like a playground in the desert, and if you ever go out there, they're all still there, so you can go see the venues and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is a spectacle. But yeah, the speed management of it's wild, like what those guys do to then, line up for the next 50-footer drop. And now they're
Mm-hmm.
throwing like, it used to be just people would ride straight. It was like the gnarliest line, which like someone like Brendan Fairclough has
Mm-hmm.
speed. But, then there's a Brendan Semenuk that takes this like slope styles. And big conversation this year, obviously, but
Yeah, yeah.
of like judging. But yeah, then he's like throwing tricks, every jump where you're going 50-foot drop, throw a trick, and then you're off to the next one and you speed manage the next one. He's throwing another backflip down a 50-foot drop. And yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
just wild times.
Crazy. So crazy. And it's cool to be a creative in an arena like that. Like that's one thing I've really enjoyed is shooting individuals that like their sole goal is whatever it is, that the performance, like the results, like they're there for a podium, they're there for this score, they're there for this time, for, whatever it looks like. But it's a very different like metric of success than I think sometimes we operate in with the photo video world, where, you work on a project and it's like, we need to launch this product, it's a very product focused shoot. So that's the goal. I like being a fly on the wall with these high level athletes where they have like a very different mindset and focus. I think it's cool to like capture the in between moments. So I think because of the setting, your images are like always better, just
Right.
because like the stakes are so high and
Yeah.
the environment's dope and the level of the riders is unmatched, and all kind of like those aspects of it. Another thing that I feel like left a big impression on me was the turnaround time for the content. Like it's so fast. And I
Instant.
experienced that a little bit with Supercross, where guys would go from like practice or qualifying straight into the media room to quickly like throw their preset on, make minor adjustments, and then upload them to media, and then they were posting them 15 minutes later. So experiencing that type of workflow was really eye-opening to me.
It's wild. Yeah.
I don't really love it. Like that's like the one drawback I feel like I have with live events. Like they're so sick, and maybe it's one of those things that I just haven't experienced a lot of and I need to get used to. But part of me almost feels like I'm shortcutting my work when I process it that quickly.
Yeah.
Because I think it's actually a really good contrasting talking point. I think going from like the Burkhardt photo, where you could argue maybe if you slowed down a little bit, that photo would have been caught and then, brought up to like the surface a little sooner. Sometimes I feel a lot like that with my work, where if I can just slow down and like comb through stuff methodically, I can get the best out of it. But I totally see the value of speed, like if you're up live and you're one of the first things people are seeing, then that holds a ton of value, whether the photo's like 2% better or not, so.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the benefit I feel like to the live events are that you're done with the event after. You don't have to worry about deliverables, and I mean there are some post deliverables too, but usually you're done with it. It's the rush, and then you're like, hurry up and rush through everything, and then it's done. But I do agree,
Yeah.
like it's definitely a different style of thinking, and sometimes it forces you to be a bit more creative on like how you can do this efficiently. Photo, I feel like definitely easier to get it out quicker, like come back, edit some stuff, get it out. But yeah, on the video side of things, it's like, yeah, some of those, I mean, you're telling stories and you got to put those, I mean, you're not sleeping for, I had think one of the rampages we pulled like a 65-hour day because we were like doing stories, getting notes back, having to go shoot some more. Like you're just going. So it's just like, you forget about sleep almost. What is sleep? I don't know. I'll do it when I'm dead.
Dang.
Yeah, it's definitely a different style of thinking, and I think I slept for like 2 weeks after that one. But yeah, I think I'm more of the like I like longer term stuff for sure. The events are fun to go to though. There's just like a good vibe there, and you feel like the energy of like World Cups are the same. It's like you're go for a week, and then once that race is done, I mean it's on to the next. So if you don't have your stuff out, really it's not it's not anything big unless it was like a win or something. Like if it's just content, it's like you got to get it up and out, and then it's on to the next week of racing.
No, I think that was just a really eye-opening experience for me, where I'm still reflecting on it, honestly, just like the workflow of that speed.
Probably
I'm
still
like,
getting dirt out of your bag and gear from that place.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's red dirt all over the place.
And I still have it in my car. It's all over the car.
Is it? Yeah, no, I love events, and I think like one goal I have is to shoot an NBA game. I think that would be so sick, like sit on the floor, and because of my background in basketball, like I'm similar to you in the sense of like that sport aspect is kind of almost my first love, So I would love to get an opportunity to do something like that.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, I'm like, dude, it's probably going to be really similar to shooting these other live events where I'll need to crank those things fast and get them out to whoever I'm shooting for. So
you want to be like hired by like a product company for those, because that's where it gets fun. Then you're not like restricted to the timeliness of an event, because that's where it gets hard, dude. The timeliness of an event is hard, but if you're like on a product thing or you're like there for creative, then I feel like it's not so much based on timeliness. You get to be creative, and it's a different style of thinking. Like XFL, we did that. We had a few things that were obviously like game related, but they gave us kind of free reins to get like really creative. They had their like internal team that did a lot of the like dailies and like highlights and this and that, but we were there to just like relinquish and like we got to do GoPro stuff with the football stuff, and that's not like a sport like moto, mountain bike. Those are like really easy. People wear cameras all the time, but like the team sports era of stuff, not era, team sports like section of things, like POV isn't really worked in, especially into game. And the hope is that one day that is a thing where you can like tune in and be in like, you know, when Tom Brady's around, like how crazy
yeah.
that'd be to see like, or Patrick Mahomes getting like sacked or something like
Dude.
from his POV like live. Like that just doesn't exist yet, but it'll get there, I'm sure. But yeah, it's just that's, I feel like you want to be, but it is similar. They're all kind of the same thing, different sport, but it's the creative side of it that you get to have fun with it and mess with lighting or, you know, there's all fun things. I haven't done basketball yet, but that would be a fun one to be like floor side and shoot some photos.
Yeah, I went to a game a few weeks ago and saw the dudes down there, sitting crisscross on the baseline. I'm like, that looks terribly uncomfortable, but I bet the stuff you guys see is so sick. So.
Yeah, I think I'd want to do F1. F1 would probably be a fun one to go shoot just for sake of like long shutter stuff and like getting creative, like having no restrictions, just like go create would be kind of a fun one to go because it's such a big space.
Yeah, that's definitely a bucket list event. But that's cool. It's cool you've shot in like a variety of industries too. Like I was digging through some of your work, and I think in my head, just because of the arenas that we've operated in, I'm like, he's the bike guy,
right?
You know?
Right.
And then I get in there,
a lot of it.
There's not just bikes in here. Yeah, there's XFL. There's, I mean, your blender shoot, the Cobra Golf. There's a good variety there. But have you ever like identified an industry and said that's somewhere I want to shoot, kind of like what you're saying with F1, and then like gone and got it? And then what advice would you have in like kind of repeating it or like having other people find success in a similar way?
Yeah, that's a good question. In football has always been one there. We got lucky because one of our ex-GoPro people was the director of marketing, director of social. Forgot what her title was, but she's actually over at MLS for the FC Gotham now. So we're trying to get some work over there, do some soccer stuff. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh,
We haven't done that ever. So it's a lot of
rad.
it's been really honestly like friends that have gone there and contacts. But I think for like, and this goes to anything like that you're intrigued by is like spec ads or like just go shoot, really. Like that's always been my thing of like, if you really want to learn something, like you can't sit and wait for it. You got to almost just like, and that's just by way of tech now. Like it's not film anymore. It's not like you can't be prescriptive. You can't be prescriptive about it, but you don't have to be prescriptive about it. You have so much room for like, just go fail a bunch and then you'll learn by those failures. Like I'm not perfect. Like I think if this was super easy to me and it would just was like, everything was perfect every time, I would get bored of it. And that's not the fun part. It's the like grind and like learning that I've always been intrigued by. And when we get to do new things, like that's the joy of it. Is like, I don't really know. Like, it's funny. You can talk to me about bikes and I'm not like, I know enough to like talk about it, but like, I'm not super deep into bikes. Like I know hockey stuff. Like I know about the sport. I know people now, but like, I think that's where I feel like I provide the most value when I come into an industry like biking. Like we could look at some pieces if you want later, but we did the 2 big docs the last 2 years. The first year was with this kid named Jackson Goldstone. Rookie kid, came in elites, had the craziest years. Appendix blew up at one point. Doctor thought he was going to die. He got first place when he should have been in the hospital at that point, and then almost won the entire thing last year. And then this year, unfortunately, blew his knee. Or sorry, last year he blew his knee out. So it was 2 years ago we shot with him. But we've done docs around that. But like, I didn't know the space super well when I did Jackson's thing. I knew of him. I knew of Mountain Biking World Cups. I'd worked on all the GoPro content for that partnership for a while. But I was able to like ask questions as if like I was like there's the niche community that likes those things, you know, but I was asking it from a sense of like, okay, if I was my wife or my brother-in-law and they've never seen mountain biking, which they haven't, I was shooting for them more than I was shooting for the bike community. I think by way of just being Jackson Goldstone and this kid, he's very known. People are going to like the video. They're going to want to watch it because it's a good story. But the people that I really wanted to tell a story to was these like outside of that space. So, and it goes with all of them. I think like I try to throw myself in those like scenarios where I don't necessarily know the space well, that I could like ask those outside questions, but then like do enough research that I like know what I am talking about too. But I can get a little deeper into like, okay, I want to know from like an outside perspective, because that's how you're going to like to a business. Like, how do you grow your business? You gain new following, you gain new people, you can sell products to those people, or, tell a story. So it's like, how do you step outside that circle a little bit? So I
Yeah.
think to circle back to like your question of like, I haven't really ever gone to like an industry to like, I'm gonna go after that one. It's been always, I've had friends and referrals. That's why I think I said in the beginning, like, I'm blessed to like have my contacts, and I've
Yeah.
got lucky that I haven't like had to market myself a crazy ton. But I know some people obviously have to grind a lot more, especially now. It's just, there's a lot of people that do video and photo, and frick, man, there's a lot of very creative people out there that I see to this day. I'm like, I'm nowhere near that guy of editing or shooting or whatever. And that guy may only have 1,000 followers and he's unheard of, but like, there's just, there's oozing amounts of creativity. And again, it's subjective. So like, maybe to that, it looks cool to me, but to you, it doesn't. So
Yeah.
I think that's the joy of it, is you get to go create. And like, even if it, like shooting with I bought a Super 8 camera and been shooting with that recently, and I love it. It's so like nitty gritty and like nostalgic,
Yeah.
but it's like the not super sharp imagery, and like, it's a fad, but it
It's
is
cool though.
interesting. But I think,
Yeah.
I would just go go shoot. It's there for you now. You have iPhones. It's like, even if you say I don't have a camera, everybody's got a phone. Everybody's got something that can shoot video. Shoot, take your iPad out and shoot with it. Like,
Yeah.
I think if you go out and like just capture life, I think that's really it. And then if it is like an industry like bike or basketball or football, like, go practice your craft. Like YouTube, like you said, you grew up watching YouTube videos, and I feel like that's the greatest thing now, is that you can go learn to do plumbing now, and you can go learn how to drywall. I'm learning how to maybe make an office space in my garage, so I might learn how to drywall. Like, same
Oh,
with
nice.
cameras. Like, there's just so many people on the internet that you can like learn from now, and just like, even if you have to copy them to start, I don't think that should be your whole shtick, is like copy everything. But
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's the best way to like push yourself to like learn a new thing too, is like, okay, even if I did this shot by shot, I'm going to learn how to like light it, and I'm going to learn how to like shoot it. And, I would rather do that, and maybe that piece never sees the light of day, but like, now I know, okay, this is how he got it, or I'm shooting. It's like, well, why doesn't mine look like that? Well, if you throw them side by side, a lot of it's lighting. Like, okay, well, he's lighting it this way and that way. And if you really dissect things, you can learn things really quickly. So yeah, I think shooting, just go shoot. Just,
Yeah.
it's there.
That's huge. No, I feel like that's for sure number one, like just getting reps. It's like anything.
Yeah, reps.
But
Yeah, you're
I think
gonna
you hit on
fail. Like, it's just
yeah.
part of it. Like, you almost want it, and then maybe it is like, we're sitting here and like, what did you not like about this? And you're gonna find things, and you kind of take that all collectively, and then you kind of define
Yeah.
your style off of what you want to go after.
Yeah. Well, and I think you hit on a super strong point. I feel like one that I learned with Ari pretty quickly, kind of like getting behind the curtain of inbound requests, kind of like what we were talking a little bit about with GoPro, where I think you go from being the creative that's like, sending out all these messages or DMs or, like cold calling basically to try to get more work. But you've got the people that are just like, hey, I take cool photos. Hey, here's like my last video edit. Hope you like it. Would love to like do stuff for you. It's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. But I think the inbound is just like so much that it's hard to actually stick out. But I think like your approach to the beyond the limits, the Jackson Goldstone stuff of taking that approach of like problem solving almost, or taking a unique approach to maybe like a project that could be somewhat typical, of like athlete mini doc kind of vibe, but taking the approach of like, okay, let's tell the story to someone that has no idea what mountain biking's like, or like has no idea what the World Cup is like, I think that can speak to brands to where you're like familiarizing yourself with the industry, with the brand, with the company that you're cold calling or hitting up, and then proposing like a potential solution that I think just the likelihood of getting through goes like through the roof at that point. Cause then you can see like this genuine interest and the time that's being put into it and the creativeness, and it kind of like sets you apart from all the other, hey, I want to do work for you, give me a chance kind
A
of
lot of
vibe,
those. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it
No,
is.
that's
I mean,
nice.
it's hard to stand out for sure. Like I said, I think with the accessibility of cameras and gear and things, it's cheaper. So there's a lot more people doing it, and just the landscape of social world, TikTok and all these platforms. And it's funny to watch them. Like my wife's like, "Why are you always watching social?" I'm like, "It's part of my job. I don't like it. It's not like it's
Mm-hmm.
probably why I don't do a lot. Like I don't do it myself, but I watch a lot of it. But it's like almost from a sense I'm interested in like the psyche of it or the business side of it, of like, why are people so intrigued by this one clip of 5 seconds that's gotten 50 billion views or something? Like, why did
Yeah.
that take off versus like these people that are creating these insane masterpieces and they get 1,000 views? Like, obviously algorithm and hitting it right time, and like they all play a factor into it. But it is interesting to see like there is this landscape of like quality versus quantity that goes on, and there's shifts all the time. Like right now, I feel like it's a quantity thing. At least on TikTok, it's definitely quantity. YouTube seems like it's starting to come back to these like long form things. Podcasts are taking off. Like people, we all do work, and it's like it's an easy way to decompress and just listen to people and like learn. I
Mm-hmm.
think people are just trying to like learn nowadays. Like that's where I get the most. I just like YouTube's such a good spot for like learning things, because you just can sit there all day and watch tutorials or listen to these podcasts, and like maybe something I say, and hopefully something I say intrigues you to like go out and do something and shoot and try this or try that, or yeah, it is intriguing to see like the landscape of content creation, what each platform's doing, like why is something taking off versus another. There's a lot to
Yeah.
do, so you got to like define what you want to do, because I think that is a struggle that everybody faces, is like, how do I do it all?
Mm-hmm.
Might not be logical to do that, and maybe that's where teams start to come and play, like an MKBHD. Like I hope I said that right, and the all his
Yeah.
initials that
Yeah.
are in there, but like
Yeah.
he's got a team that's behind him, so he's not doing everything. But I think to the forefront, he's the face, so it looks like he's the solo guy. But yeah, you can tell like their strengths. Like he sticks to like, YouTube is his thing, but
Mm-hmm.
or a Mr. Beast, it's same. Like commands all of the internet of content, but dude's
Seriously.
smart in what he's doing. He comes at it from like an analytical approach. So like I watch all those and just like dissect why,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to like integrate those into like our consulting and like, with brands. Like, okay, well, here's the landscape of what I'm seeing, let's integrate these certain things or trends or whatnot. And you try to be ahead of those, but
Yeah.
things take off randomly sometimes that you just never would guess. So
Yeah. There's definitely that element, but
yeah.
no, I think yeah, that's like the levels, right? It's like getting a camera and providing cool content is one aspect of value, but now it's almost like you're touching more on the strategy and like the real kind of like moving money in a sense that
Right.
really is gonna speak to brands, especially when it comes to like the dynamic that you have of, running and operating an agency. So providing value outside of just pretty photos and videos, that,
Yeah.
might serve a purpose, but
And that's why I think quantity is such a big thing right now. It's just like get content out there. It's better to like be out there and have content in the world. And because I think it seems like a lot of the algorithms work off of like once you see a clip, it's going to keep feeding you things because they think you like that if you're interested in it. So if you're seeing it enough, it's going to keep feeding you it more. So I think once you have that quantity going, then is where you hit somewhere in the middle of like this quality thing, whether it's a long form video or I think that's, you got to be prescriptive about like, everything you're doing, and maybe you stick to one. Like some people are just TikTok and they're doing these short form things and more quantity, and then there's some long form people are just doing long form stuff. So you find that
yeah.
niche, and then you can kind of like pick and choose things to go to those other ones. But I feel like it's just better to be out there and not be afraid to like get your stuff and post it, because it's somebody's gonna like it somewhere, and maybe it takes off. I've seen things that like people post on their couch, like saying, "Look at this cushion," and it's 50 million views. You're just like, "Oh, I could have did that," but you didn't.
Yeah.
So you never know until you post something. Sometimes,
Yeah, really though. It's like that dude longboarding with the cranberry
yeah,
juice.
dude, that guy's
Just
took off. Yeah,
blows up. Yeah. No, that's
insane. You
sweet.
just never will know. It's just right place, right time, and kudos to those people that have those huge followings and make loads of money on there. But
Yeah.
you just look at those stuff, you're like, oh, I could have done that.
Yeah, if only. If only.
If only, yeah.
No, I'm with you. Well, let's dig into reviewing some of your work.
Yeah.
If you got those handy, we can see what this.
What do you want to see? You want to start with maybe the doc in their element, or Jackson's?
Let's do Jackson's. We were talking a little bit about it already, so we kind of prime that pump.
Let's see, is it share screen? Is that what I'm doing?
Share screen.
Looking around my...
Click on that little link. And is it like a trailer? Is that kind of...
Yeah, I'll just play the trailer just so you can see it.
We can spend the last 45 minutes and watch one of the episodes.
There you go. Yeah, they're long. I know they're long. They were not meant to be that long ever. And then they just
really?
turned into, they're supposed to be like 10 minutes.
Oh, dang.
And then...
I liked that they were long, though, when I watched them.
Yeah, it was different, right?
Yeah, it was cool.
Okay, so what, I think, are you seeing this full screen now?
Yep.
Okay,
Looks
sweet.
good on my end.
Let me know, should I play a bit? And then you can always cut this out, but should I play it and see if it plays audio? Will it play audio or?
Yeah, I think it should. Okay. Last time we did it.
Was that playing?
Yep.
Okay, I'll go back. So yeah, let's preface this. So we did a doc. We were working with GoPro, and it was a doc we did with this kid named Jackson Goldstone. Oh, of course the ads are playing. Turn the audio off. It was this doc that we were... I'll wait till this is done, so you can cut this out. I don't know how that works for like you cutting out like the screen grabs.
Yeah, neither do I. We'll find out.
I love ads, so I'll wait. Just put on a frame that looks cool. Yeah, it's cool enough. So yeah, we did this doc with Jackson Goldstone for GoPro. It was like a 5-part series. Originally they're supposed to be like 10 minutes long, and they all turned into like 40 minutes. That was just by way of this kid had an insane season. It was his first year in elites. He'd kind of been known to like come up in the industry, and he was like said to be in the tops, but just obviously coming into there's a lot of people that they say are going to be up there and then don't make it, or it's hard when you get to the high level of stuff. So he proved his point really quickly. Had a crazy season of like, oh, there goes the light. Had a crazy season of his appendix blew up and like all sorts of things. So like all the things just got fed to me, which was so cool. But I got to be a part of the entire season with him. I missed one race and he won.
Oh, shoot.
But the trailer I'm showing you is the last episode. So he had actually won the race. I'm probably spoiling it now. I think it's in the trailer though. But he won the race by like 4 seconds. He almost won the whole thing by, I think he was off by like 0.007 or something. So yeah, I'll play it and then we can kind of dissect it if you want. But
yeah, sweet.
So
sick.
Pretty wild one.
So dope, dude.
Yeah, that was a challenge. So yeah, the biggest challenge was it was a GoPro shoot, which they have never really done anything other than like shooting with GoPros. I actually have a piece that we can watch too, but we had done a series around the Tour de France. That was actually a really cool one. I had a team of like 10 or 15 I was managing while I was there. And we were the POV content creator or like POV camera of the Tour de France. So I'll jump back to that. But yeah, Jackson's series was GoPro never really let us shoot with Reds or anything at that point. So it was a new territory, but the goal is like, make it still feel GoPro. And obviously GoPro just lends itself to that sport really well because people can wear cameras. They have a helmet, so it can attach to that. So I was challenged with like making it like a 70-30 or 60-40 split of the two. But I just feel like it's hard to... GoPro is such a wide angle lens, and the struggle with that is you have to be on next to them to get content. So I had pitched like, hey, let me shoot this pilot for you. I think it'll work. I can be long lens when like the moments are happening, frustrations or whatever that may be. And yeah, this just came to be. And so the series did really well. Like I said, he had an insane season. It was like probably one of my favorite docs I worked on. They're supposed to be like 10-minute episodes, and they turned into 45 minutes because he won 2 races during the year. I think every race had a different winner. He was the only one to win twice that year. So yeah, some challenges that we were tasked with, and then I feel like we definitely executed on them. And then, like I said, I wasn't super familiar other than like I'd worked on the content. I knew of people there, but like never really knew the workings of it and team dynamics. And I had to learn all that really quick. And Jackson I had met when he was like 10 at a Whistler event in Whistler, and hadn't really talked to him since. So it was I got thrown in to just basically follow him around. So trying to create that connection with somebody you're shooting constantly. Like I had a camera in his face all the time. So I definitely feel I've done a lot more of that recently, of like doc work on the like on the fly, on the wall kind of feel, and I really enjoy it because I just enjoy connecting with people and like learning about them. So it was a cool way to learn about him and his family, the team, and then shoot this. I mean, I just got lucky with the season, I think, of what he got, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was a fun one. That was, yeah. I
That's
watch that
so
and still
rad.
get chills watching that one. It's
Oh
cool.
yeah. Yeah, I remember when I watched it right after you guys released it, and back then I didn't really know you. I knew Justin Fierro, and I
Yeah.
was just like, dude, you guys killed this. I'm
Yeah.
like glued. Probably shouldn't say this, but I was at work glued to my computer while I'm burning 45 minutes, you know?
Yeah. I know it was long ones. Everybody liked it though. They're like I stuck in it. Like it was
Oh yeah.
interesting to watch, which like that was the hardest part was that like it's long to watch. I mean, they're Netflix style shows basically at that point. So
Oh yeah.
we really took like the Drive to Survive style shooting, which I think a lot of people are doing now. Like they want to see these behind the scenes, and I've enjoyed that the most. Really doing that like this we can watch the Tour de France one, but we had kind of done that before Drive to Survive ever came out. Now there's one actually around Tour de France. I forgot what that one's called, but
Mm,
we'd kind of done that at one point. I had pitched this big 12-part series. It was uncovering basically Tour de France behind the scenes. We worked with every team. We had cameras on bikes for every race. We knew who was gonna go for it every race. We had knew
mm,
all the strategies.
wow.
Yeah, it was the access we got was unheard of. Like it was so cool to see it, and we traveled all through France for 21 days. Of
Dang.
every day was a different city. So
Yeah. That's rad. That's super cool. So that was part of the agreement with GoPro was the majority had to be on GoPro.
yeah, and at the end of the day, it's to sell the camera. But I've always gone to the sense of like product is there, it always will be there, and I think GoPro speaks for itself. The brand image is there for sure. Like you see a
Oh yeah.
POV shot, you kind of always instantly say it's a GoPro. I mean, there's obviously other cameras out there too, but I think we all just kind of have gone to that because it's been around for so long. So
Hmm.
that sport for sure lends itself to it because every race run was filmed, every practice was filmed. They watch those cameras to like see lines and practice and figure out what's going faster. They compare race runs, they do all that. So, yeah, it was definitely, you have to think uniquely for sure because you're trying to place that. You don't want to use it as like a traditional camera, even though I did. It was more of like my pocket cam when he got close to me. If I needed a quick interview, like I wasn't gonna whip the big red in his face and be like, "Okay, dude, let's go." It was like I had this little camera out, and it just allowed him to be more personable with me because
Hmm.
it wasn't always this like, "Okay, I need you to sit here. I need you to set up. I need to like hold you down to get the shot." It's like I was always ready to go, and I think that's where GoPro does come in handy. Is it's this like unique tool that can work itself in whether it's mounting it on things like bikes or helmets or whatever, water bottles for that instance, like whatever.
Yeah.
But it was always like, yeah, how do we get the unique angle? But it was just a tool in the bag, really. And I think it was like story first. Like at the end of the day, it was a story. So my question always was, and maybe I'll ask you this too, is like, did it feel, knowing that GoPro is always shot on GoPros, did it feel like a GoPro video? Like, did you get that sense, or did you just enjoy the story overall?
Like if I'm understanding your question correctly, was it distractingly action camera, or was I just so engulfed into the story that I was like, dude, this could be shot on a phone right now. Like I'm just listening, like I'm just sucked
Yeah,
into it.
I think yeah. I think how am I trying to position it? Of like, because it's meant to build a brand image more than anything. You like the story, you love the brand. Yeti is my example to that.
Mm,
Yeti does
yeah.
such a good job at that. Like that if I had a thing I really would love to go after is like shooting a video for Yeti. I think they
Mm,
have so many videos that I watch and I'm like, frick, man, the stories are so good,
mm-hmm.
and it's a brand video. There's coolers in it. You see it, but it's like you almost forget about it because like the stories are there. They just want like this old pit boss lady that's like 60, 70.
Yeah.
But she's sweaty in Texas and she's the pit boss and she's throwing sacks over her shoulder and like
Mm-hmm.
loved it. I'm just like so into it. And then you get the cooler's in there. It's in there, but it's like I know that's a Yeti piece. And you don't maybe see that right away, but then it's just like I love the brand because of that.
Yeah.
Um, so
I see what you're saying.
yeah, it's like, did it feel? Because like the traditional GoPro video, you know what it looks like. It's this wide angle lens. It's the POV
Mm-hmm.
shots. This wasn't that. It had story to it. It had everything. So like, Did you feel like it was just a different video? Were you so engulfed that you just didn't know? At the end of it, you're like, wow, GoPro did something different. That was really cool. Maybe that intrigues you to like go look deeper into GoPro too.
Yeah, I would say I was 100% the latter in the sense of, because I'm similar to you. Like, I haven't been in the industry for years and years and years, you know? It was basically from the time I started working at RE the last 5 years or so to now. And even the first few years, I was still kind of like in that transition zone where I was like, dude, I like bikes are cool, but like I'm gonna go home and watch the NBA, you
You're
know?
right.
But no, I feel like hearing more and more buzz about the character and the person Jackson Goldstone, and then hearing about him get into the elites, right? Which, for those that don't know, that's like the premier class. Like, that's as good as it gets.
F1. Yeah, it's the F1 and mountain biking World Cup downhill.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like my really, I guess, like small amount of exposure I had to who Jackson was, I was already kind of a fan because he's like a super likable dude
Lovable.
from
Yeah, he's hard to
everything you
not
see
love.
online, you know? I'm sure you could speak to that on a whole new level. But no, I feel like I watched episode 1 and I was just taking it as like, I want to learn more about this kid Jackson, which I feel like it 100% did. And then I want to learn more about World Cups, what the format is, what the dynamic is, what the relationship between other racers, the stakes that are, you know, like at risk in a sense, and like what there is to win and lose. So I think that's where my mind was when I went through all of the different episodes, was just the storytelling of watching this kid kill it for a year,
Right.
you know, and all of like the cool in between moments that you guys captured. And then me getting more exposed to the series as a whole of like, dude, I'm now a fan of World Cups, you know, and I can name way more racers I can now than I did 3 years ago. And I think this series was kind of a component of that, where I'm like, it's more intimate than just seeing like the race
footage.
recaps on Pink Pike,
Right.
you know, or like, here's the final POV winning run. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Cool.
But
Yeah. Everybody will watch
yeah,
those. I
yeah,
think
the
that's
way
why.
you guys constructed the stakes, I feel like was huge in my head.
Yeah, I feel like that's why these series like Drive to Survive or any of those have done so well, is that like you don't get to see that. And I think when you learn about characters and you can relate to them, because they are just people at the end of the day. Yeah, they're high, they're competing at the top of their class, but like, I mean, I got to meet so many of those athletes. Like, I worked with Daniel Ricciardo from F1. Dude is so down to earth. Like, at the end of the day, he's just a human being. I got to work with Dwayne the Rock Johnson for XFL. Like, that guy's the biggest teddy bear ever. Like, super super friendly. Like, and you obviously you see them all over TV and they're like these big personas, but like, yeah, it's the characters when you get to like really like connect with them is where I've like had the most reward come from these like things where I've got to follow and tell those stories. And I think I've been lucky, by the way, of what the stories have come to tell. Like, same with the In Their Element series that happened this last year.
Yeah.
Like Omri's story, same thing. Like, what an insane story to come back from like a broken back and like,
Yeah.
and then win 2 back to back, and like, holy smokes, like I was there to capture all of that. Like, crazy that I was able to tell that story. So right place, right time for some of those. But I enjoy the ones where you like don't have like necessarily a story, because that's where the creative side comes in. Is like, how do you construct this now to make a creative story out of it? There's always a way, for sure. And maybe it takes more than what you shot there, but I think there's always a way to do it.
Yeah. No, that's a really cool insight. How do you go about working with an athlete like someone like Jackson or Amory, or, you know, these high level dudes that you don't want to get in their way, right? But you want to, like you're saying, capture the story and create a story too, if maybe it's not as obvious as some scenarios. But
Right.
what's your approach with that relationship?
It's a tough one. Like, I think the people I've worked with have been so good to work with. You can obviously meet athletes or people out there that are just very tough to work with. I've been lucky to not have those. But I've always just approached it from a like, hey, I'm here. Let's work together. Like, there's always combos that go into before you even get started of like, okay, do you want to do this? Is it something that intrigues you? Cool. If not, then, you know, obviously we won't do it, but they're usually already interested into it. So that helps. But I think like I said, it was new for me to meet him. He's meeting me for the first time. He's obviously got a huge weight on his shoulders. I mean, the kid's got a great head on his shoulders. So he balanced it really well of like, he knows that he needs to do media. He knows that he needs to put these pieces out to like say who he is, and like they understand that. So when you meet somebody like that, it makes my life easier, because then it's it's a partnership in making this happen. But I think with everything I do, I just like, hey, I'm here. I'm a fly on the wall. That's like my expertise, I feel like, at this point, that I've learned to capture things and jump in when I can. And we joke, like, I'm like, hey, if I'm like in your face and you don't want me, tell me to F off. Like, I don't care. I know that you guys have more things to worry about. And I've had that scenario where they're like, hey, don't film this, you know, like, I don't need to be there for that. And that's fine. Like, but I will try to like see where I can work myself in, because those are the moments people want to see, is like somebody breaking down. Like Omri had one first race back, didn't perform well, thought he like just couldn't keep up with the top guys anymore, and he's crying in the pits, and it's an emotional moment. Like, I mean, that's hard to come back after a year off, see that he really wasn't that many seconds off, to be honest, but in his mind, you know, he's not back at top level, and that's not, you know, it doesn't feel great. So it's like, how do you approach those? It's tough for sure, and it's hard to even shoot it at times. You're just like Jackson crashed a few times when right in front of me, and I'm just like, natural instincts go get him. But I'm like, gotta keep rolling somewhat. So it's a hard doc work is interesting. It is a fun one for sure, because you are looking for the story always. There's always like, you never can guess. You kind of know a general sense of what you're doing, but you're kind of like looking also for those moments that really stick out, that like you can latch onto and tell deeper, because that's the stuff that people don't get to see on the surface. You see race runs, you see what they say to like pink bike, and you know, high, you know, football, it's, you know, if they're talking on the news or whatever, like they put on a persona, but it's when the cameras are off that like, that's where you want to know, like, yeah, what's going on. Like I dive into that. So that's why, I mean, Netflix has all this crazy docs you just like, you can't not watch, because it's so interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. So and like, obviously you're never going to overstep to where it could inhibit any type of performance, right? But like, I think you bring up a good point of like, if the line is the athlete saying, hey, back off a little bit, or hey, don't film this, you're not afraid to like approach that line, is kind of what you're saying? Or are you like, nah, man, I don't want to be told to F off, because then I've crossed the line in a sense. Like,
yeah, I think with doc work, you have to like border the line a little bit.
you got to kind of creep up on it every now and then.
And some of it's like I worked with an athlete this last year, and he was being followed by some other film stuff, or I forgot how it went down, but that was part of my story, was like, I wanted to tell the background of that. I stepped back actually, and then filmed them filming him, because like, that's such an aspect of them. Like, obviously I'm that guy usually that's in their face, but seeing that from my perspective, I was like, well, this is kind of interesting. Like, they deal with this on the daily. I want to tell that story too, is like, I know they have to deal with that. So like, and that's where doc work or just telling stories, you're looking for those things of like, okay, I can see it's taking a toll on him at certain times. It's a new thing for him. This was Dak I was shooting with. That he's one of the In Their Element series, but we told a small portion of that in our piece was, it's like, it's such a new territory for him. He was coming to the limelight. It's a lot on their shoulders. So I think it just comes with time too. Like, I've done it enough now that I know kind of where those lines are. Yeah. I know where to push, and I know where to like pull back. But I think especially with doc work, you kind of have to toe the line a little bit. Yeah. So you're going to get told to F off occasionally. I've definitely been in scenarios where like, delete that. So it gets deleted. And I think you have to build a rapport for sure. Like the first few days or weeks of shooting with them, it wasn't the same as like the end of it. We were homies, and it's like, I need you there for this next season. So I'm trying to work my way back out to Europe for this year, but we'll see.
Oh yeah. This will be a sick year for Jackson. If all things go smooth, which they did not the year you recorded them. So.
No, but I think honestly it was good for him. Took a year off, and I think he just won Hardline. So another mountain bike event. So I think I think he'll do good. I don't want to jinx anything.
Knock on wood for sure. But no, that's cool. I feel like I ran into that at Rampage, and it was one of my first times. It's honestly one of those stories that like, I'm kind of embarrassed about. And the people that are close to me know more of the details, but basically it was two riders that I was capturing some photos of. And it was just one of those moments where I crept up probably too close to the line, in the sense where I'm trying to get this specific angle at a really wide lens, so I'm pushing in a little tighter than maybe they were comfortable with. And then one of them was just like, bro, back off. And I'm like, sounds good. Like that's all I needed to hear. I'm not going to like snap back or anything, like 100%. I got too close. We're good.
Yeah.
And then it's all good. You know, you can just walk away. And I think if your ego stays out of it, no harm, no foul, right? But as soon as you start to like feel some type of way, then it can quickly deteriorate into something that's just not a good situation. So.
Yeah. I think that's what separates some of the like higher, like if you really look at a lot of work, the photos, the videos that stand out, at least in like storytelling, like they're in there, like they're in deep, and they're probably pushing at times. And maybe you don't agree with it always, and it's not always needed, but I think if you know the person enough or you know the story enough, like there's ways to tell it creatively and there's ways to be there creatively, so you learn how to like do it, you know, smoothly. But yeah, you can't let somebody that tells you to screw off one time like tear you down, because it's gonna happen. And I think you learn your limits, and that's the only way you're gonna learn, because if not, you'll sit back and you'll always shoot the long lens and you'll never know. But you know, maybe that was the one shot that no one ever could get before, and you just happen to capture it. So I think it's you gotta tinker with things. Like it's like I said before, you gotta go shoot. Like you'll never know until you try it. Same with content on the web. Like you never know it's gonna stick unless you like really try it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think you hit on an important point too, of just setting the expectation right out of the bat, right? Like if you can have that conversation with the athlete and at least set the table so everyone is like somewhat aware, then I think you set yourself up for success, you know, as the shoot progresses, whether it's a few hours or days, weeks, whatever that looks like. But
Yeah.
I think if you just quietly sneak in and all of a sudden they're like, who is this freaking bearded dude with a GoPro right up my nose? You know, it's like, bro, chill. Oh, I work for GoPro, and you just kind of set the table a little bit. But
Yeah, I think it's funny too, because now that you say like we're talking about this, like growing up, I would try to go get to, like, I shot Street League when it was like first a thing, and I biffed my way in and saying I was working with the college newspaper, and I just wanted to go shoot cool skateboarding stuff. So like,
yeah,
I feel like the only way to sometimes, like, was it right to do that? Probably not. Was it a harm to them that I was shooting? No. I knew my boundaries there and where I could, like, I mean, I asked, where could I be, where can I not be? So I knew where the media zone was, but like I got a media pass, and I've done that before of like other things too. But it was a way that like I progressed myself, and like, once you get one thing, sometimes it can take off. So it's like, if you don't try to do it, I mean, the worst they say is no, you can't have it. You're not media credentialed and whatnot. But like, got sick photos. It was in my reel for a long time, and that scored skate things off of that because people saw, Sean Malto in it and whoever. It was by way of me just trying. So you toe the line a lot of times, but I feel like, maybe the uncomfortableness is what drives the creativeness sometimes. Like it pushes you a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of that drive to like go capture something that you haven't before, right?
Yeah, it's good to be uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah, 1,000%. No, that's cool. That's sweet, man. Well, let's check out some more of your work. Let's see what else you got.
Let's see. Share screen. Let me check this light and make sure I've got battery on it. We're good on the one light. I'll just have some more moody lighting over here.
Yeah, there you go. We're dialed.
Yeah. I'll play this. I can play the bike one real quick since we were talking about that.
Sweet.
So this was similar series. So this is before like Beyond. What is it? Drive to Survive even started. Like for like the behind. I mean, everybody's done behind the scenes stuff, but it was really like, I feel like maybe they watched it at one point because they still used GoPros and all the like. We actually saw a lot of the people that we used to shoot with in the. Like what I forgot what the bike one was called. They did it around the Tour de France, but they did a series basically like Drive to Survive, and we'd actually pitched to go do Drive to Survive to Tour de France at one point, and we were like 4 months too late, and Netflix had taken it, or a buddy of mine was pitching it or pitched it or something, and I just contacted. He's like, "Dude, I just pitched it," and we were like a couple months too late because Netflix took it up. So, I'll play it real quick and then we can kind of talk real quick. Maybe I'll just play the intro because this is the full video, but the intro kind of tells enough. So,
Okay, perfect.
So jump off that. But yeah, essentially, I mean, that kind of gives you a good idea of what it could be. But we did a 10-part series. We had access to every team, every rider there. GoPro is the partner of the Tour de France is the only onboard camera. So I had two teams that I was managing. It was this story team, and then there was like a daily highlights. So we had 15 cameras running by the end of the race. And to know Tour de France is okay, so it's one of the biggest events in the world, next to Super Bowl, next to Olympics. It's 21 days all over France. Every day is a different city. They're riding hundreds of kilometers the whole time. It's multiple teams. There's strategies involved. It's really cool to see it. And I always thought that was an interesting thing is I watched it the first year I got into it. I was like, I love all the things behind the scenes of this, like all the strategies. Like it's not just about the one dude that wins in the lowest amount of time. There's like team wins. There's strategy that's going in the middle of it. Who's going out first? Who's going to get there's races within the race to get like different jerseys, whether it's like King of the Mountain or sprint jerseys. There's points to be had. So depending on your team, depending on your strengths, you go after those wins for your sponsors, obviously. So we dissected it all the way from there to like, we covered chefs and like nutrition. We even did it to like, I mean, being that it's the biggest event in the world, they move this like entire city to, like of cars. I forgot there's statistics in there of like there's miles and miles of like cabling that has to happen because it's all live. So they're broadcasting up to a helicopter who's broadcasting up to a plane who's broadcasting up to the satellites that feed out the live feed. So we like covered this like behind even that of like what it takes to even run Tour de France. So that was my goal really, was like, how do we show people Tour de France similar to like the in their element and the behind or Jackson series is like, what's World Cup? Like I know what it is, but I want to tell that story to people that don't know. Obviously the niche community will watch it, but let's tap that market beyond too. So that was the Tour de France one, was like, yeah, there was the daily highlights. Within 3 hours, everything would shut down and they'd move to the next city, which was like 50 minutes, an hour away to the next start. So we'd have to have like a highlight edit out within 3 hours. So we'd look through 15 cameras that would run. They would turn on at like different times because they had this booklet and it was down to like 5 minutes or 10 minutes from the booklet time of where they would be at in the like the track of like race path. So we knew where to turn cameras on. So we knew every team strategy. We'd talk and say, okay, who's going out this morning? Who's going to go for it? Who's like going to sprint at the end? Who's going to go for the climb? So we knew when to turn cameras on, and like some of it was chance for sure. But some of the times, I mean, I have one clip. I wish I could find it. It was deep. I couldn't find it, but it was 1K left. We were the only camera. The live cameras blacked out, and we had a GoPro camera on the like support vehicle behind the leader of the race, and the banner fell. Somebody cut the power to the banner, and it fell. He flips over the banner. The support vehicle's right behind him, filming it with the GoPro. The footage was insane.
Wow.
Maybe I'll find it after, and you can like plug it here or something to watch. Put it in there.
Yeah.
But the footage was like crazy. But it was things like that where, I mean, you're sifting through loads of footage, but the POV of that, it's like no one had ever seen it at that point. So you're like right in the peloton. You're in the middle of all the bikers. I mean, they would see it at sometimes, like point it, squirt water at it. They would like, you'd see Dirty play in their elbows and stuff in the sprints. Like it was cool.
Jeez.
But the behind the design it's called Beyond the Race. And yeah, we got to dive in like with specific athletes, cooks, like a full team, individual athletes, like full races. And we started like at the beginning of the season. So we did it actually for like 7 or 8 months. We were in and out of Europe doing all the races up to Tour de France. So we did, I think, four races, and then Tour de France was like the 21-day race. So
okay. Dang, dude, lived in France.
Lived in France, yeah. Europe, yeah, it's like a second home. I should just buy a place over there, to be honest. Over there,
roll that mustache right now.
Yeah, there you go. Woo! Eat some baguettes and pizza. I could do it though. It's food over there is amazing.
That is wild. That seems like just such a huge undertaking from like just a management standpoint, like logistically. That's wild.
Yeah, and I was managing mountain bike on top of all that. So I had a guy, he was Jordan Fatke, and loved the dude. He cut most of those stories and lived there. He literally lived there for 6 months. Wow. Met his girlfriend there and got married to her, which is super cool, fun story there. But man, we were putting in hours there with this like entire team. Actually, one of the kids that worked with us there. He lived in California for like 2 years. They came and toured around here, and we saw him multiple times. So I keep in touch. But
That's cool.
yeah, he was the driving force behind this story. But I was actually back and forth between that and then managing like all these mountain bike events going on, and then wingsuit athletes. And yeah, it was my, like, I would say that's probably like the time I look back in most rewarding time. Like I hated it during it. I was sleepless nights and
Oh yeah.
but like looking back, I'm like, the Tour de France thing was probably the coolest thing that I've like done, like as far as managing the most amount of people, and just it was a worldwide. I was in both time zones at all times.
Wow. Dang, dude, that is insane. I had no idea. That's cool. That's super cool. How oh shoot, what was I gonna ask you? How do you manage, like, what was I gonna ask? I can't remember. Maybe it'll come back. But no, that's really interesting. It's surprising that the teams gave you strategy, because I feel like that's one of those things that, from what I've heard, they keep super close to their chest, right?
Very much so. I mean, it wasn't so much like, I mean, it was strategy, because we had to know who was like, because their partner, like, to know, like, so Tour de France is owned by 2 governing bodies, and there's teams that sit within each of those. There's always like, you know, players unions and stuff, but there's two governing bodies that own the teams. And so their goal is to like really share the sport and do new things. So they were all, you know, cameras became a thing, and they had to wear them on their bikes. So they would put them strategically on people. But by way of that, we had created like a firmware to turn the cameras on at like a set time. So all cameras, like once the cards went in, it would had like this timer delay on it. So at 1300 hours, so 1 o'clock, we knew they would be at this section of the track. They'd be starting their climb, or at least near it. And then we'd know, okay, so and so is going to go up for the climb. He may go, here's his lead out man. We're going to put on the back of the lead out man so we get actually a shot of the climber. Same with the sprints. We would know like who the lead outs of the sprints were, and we know who was going to like go for it that day. So we kind of like, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, we knew who was going to go and attack and who wasn't. So we definitely had to keep quiet.
Yeah.
But you almost like, I think if you like looked back, you could almost like maybe guess by way of who was wearing cameras. Like, I don't know if anybody ever caught on to that, but yeah, maybe someone used that to their advantage at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, some minor cues.
Yeah.
Huh. That's super interesting. Did you? This is what I was gonna ask. How do you manage a shot list and like structure with being fluid and like capturing things in the moment with some of these big projects, like the Jackson Goldstone one and this, you know, Tour de France one, where it seems like randomness can happen, and it is happening constantly, but I would assume you need to come in with some structure, right? Because like, what did you pitch the project on, and how do you make sure that at a bare minimum you're getting, you know, XYZ? What's your kind of outlook on that?
Yeah. Doc work is, you kind of have a structure going in, and that could the whole thing could flip upside down, which I've had happen for sure. We had pitched kind of the general senses of them. Like Jackson's was definitely like intro to elites. Okay, so we're gonna touch on like, you know, how are you doing in elites? Let's cover his first races, and then it kind of just evolves from there. Obviously, like I said, I think episode 3, his appendix blew up, like literally, and he was in the hospital, and so he had one actually. I missed that race. We had a guy there covering it, so that's, I think, first episode or second episode. I think second episode. He wins, and little did people know is like shouldn't have been racing, but he won crazily, and then he left instantly from there, got his surgery, and then he was back within a few weeks. There was actually a gap at that time, so he lucked out, and then was able to make it back for that next race, and I think got 5th, 4th, I don't know. Crazy. He just had an insane season. So yeah, with doc work, you don't really like, you come with a structure, but you know that can flip quickly by way of like what's happening, especially if it's live events. I'd say is doc work is you're just run and gun the whole time. Gotcha. I think if I'm working on a passion project right now with a guy I met up the street over COVID, he's building an airplane in his garage, building it in
cool.
sheet metal. So it's first I
Dang.
saw like a chunk of metal, asked him, and we've become friends. Now he comes to all our family gatherings and Christmas, and he's
Cool.
like our parents basically, or the boys like adopted grandparents basically. But
That's cool.
yeah, that can be a little bit more prescriptive because it's controlled environments. But the live events storytelling, I feel like, is very run and gun, and you got to go in with like an idea and know kind of like what you want to gather, and you can kind of push your way to that. But then I think a lot of it comes by way of if he wins, he wins. If he loses, then how are you going to like plan that? And I can't say that I had an idea when he did fail. I think I've always been run and gun for like those projects, and they just haven't worked out. So when they don't, it's a struggle, but you find a creative way to do it.
Yeah, the Jackson story is cool, especially contrasting to maybe In Their Element episode where you covered Dak, where I think everyone was kind of thinking Dakota would get a win,
Yeah.
And so that was almost the story that I could see maybe sprouting up for you guys of like capture his first ever downhill win, and then it kind of feeds into like what could have been, the story. And
Right,
it's a harder story to tell, but maybe an example where you're expecting success from both of them potentially, right? And we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, that was definitely, and why I think that was supposed to go out sooner than it did. Because we're only supposed to cover that. So In Their Element, we were supposed to cover athletes. Every 2 races was a new athlete. Dax I ended up covering him the whole season because, he had some struggles in the middle. I mean, he did well. He was like up in the top 10 too. And I think everybody just was waiting for that win. And I think it's there. The kid's, man, he's there for sure in the win. But, it didn't work. So then, we had to do some work on the back end of like, okay, we didn't win. What was, how can we take the good out of this? Because like at the end of the day, he's a very loved character. And he was like learning a lot. So that was really interesting to dive into. Like now you got to get into the character aspect. It's not so much about this win that drives the story. It's the character that drives the story. And he was a great character to work with. I mean, he had so much to learn. He was like learning as he went. He was getting first places in qualifying. So essentially he's like last to drop, and that's a lot of pressure that he hadn't had before. So seeing that, like I latched onto that really quickly of like, okay, now he's dealing with new pressures in life. How do you flip that? And okay, now the end of the year happens, he didn't win. How do I tell that story now? Well, he's there and he knows it. It's just a matter of like refining and coming back with, a fire in his, belly to do better. And I think he's got it. So
yeah, sets it up for the comeback story potentially, right?
Yeah.
So outside of his injury, I was super bummed to see that.
I know.
He got that. But,
poor guy.
Yeah. No, that's cool to kind of see some of the backstory. And I knew you traveled a lot and had like crazy work hours. I don't think I realized at what extent though. Like I can't even wrap my head around a 65-hour day for one, let alone
that was once in a lifetime. I won't do that one again.
I'm like, dude, if I ever work with you, I hope the expectation is low.
Hello, yeah, no, I don't do that one anymore. And
no,
bless the dude that was with me. He's like, I won't ever do that again with you. I was like, trust me, I'll never put us through that again. That was chaotic.
Yeah.
But
that's wild.
yeah, I mean, they're long hours for sure. Rewarding though, like it's a love-hate thing. I think my wife says it's my biggest strength and my worst strength is that like I work so much, but I enjoy it. That's what I think just drives me back to like, it's a passion for sure. And it's funny, like nursing major to this, I would have never ever thought I'd be in Europe for half the year almost at times. It feels like, or getting these opportunities or talking with you, dude. Like I would never think I'd be on a podcast. And you said, I was like, you showed me your list. I was like at the top. I'm like, what, dude? Like there's so many other people that could be up there, but like grateful that's there and the things that I've got to do. And it's all rewarding for sure. Now that I look back, it's a lot of years put into it. So it didn't happen overnight for sure.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. But along those lines, how do you balance, like, you're a father of 2, dope twins, right? Married man. I mean, you've got like the whole base camp and crew in California. How do you balance the expectations of work, your own passion? Because I think that's an element that I can relate to where it's like yes, there is the work component, right? Like I need the money, I need to support my family, I need all these things that are associated with having a career. But then there's oftentimes with creatives this passion component that I think some people have a hard time wrapping their head around, where they're like, wait, how many hours did you work this week? Like, do you like that? You know, because I think they're comparing it to their job that's maybe less hobby, passion
Right.
focused, you know? But yeah, I'm just curious your thoughts on that. Like, how do you navigate that with all the different relationships that you're balancing and prioritizing in addition?
It's not easy. I'm learning still.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's a tough one. I definitely work more than I should. But I think this last year even though I probably traveled more than I ever have, I actually got to take my kids and my wife for 6 weeks. We did straight in Europe. They got to see 3 of the World Cup races. We went from Germany to Switzerland to Italy to France. I mean, these 3-year-olds are spoiled.
Dude, yeah,
They don't
that's
that. I
dope.
don't think most kids get that, you know. I never got
Mhm.
that as a kid, but
No way.
and they still talk to it this day, and they're so hooked on mountain bikes. They love it. They're full face helmets now and obsessed with. They got to meet Jackson while we were out there, and they had like at 2 we would watch, because I would be editing them all the time, so they just naturally would watch them with me. I'd rewatch them together with them, and they love the kid. They like Jackson. They were all shy when they met him, but
Oh,
they got
that's cool.
signed jerseys from him and like Loic Bruni and all the top guys there. So that
No
was
way.
really cool because they still to this day talk to it. And yeah, I mean, that was the first they've ever got to go on a trip with me. But yeah, life balance at home. I mean, my wife is a trooper for holding down the fort. It's twin boys, so they're handfuls, and
Yeah.
they're exactly like us. They don't rest, they don't nap. Now they're dropping naps right now, so that's been fun. So yeah, it's a grind. Like, I think I never thought my wife would get to stay home, so I'm grateful that like I have enough work that she gets to do that.
Mm,
California's not cheap, so
yeah.
yeah, we're making do and making it work as long as we can. But yeah, the balance is hard for sure. I mean, I probably work way more than I should, to be honest, but I love it. I
Yeah.
love it so much. So,
That's
and I
dope.
think when you're just passionate about something, it's what's the saying? Like you'll always, or you go back to like what you love, or I don't. It's that there's that saying that people say of like you love what you do, so you stick around to it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's not the saying, but
Yeah. If you
yeah,
love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life
there
or
you go.
something like
That's the
that,
one. Yep,
right?
yep, yep.
Yeah.
So I think I've got that, and I've had the corporate life of it. I've had the, you know, grind of, and I think like what people don't see, like people, all my friends are like, bro, you're in Europe, you're doing this, you're doing that. I'm like, but what you're
Mhm.
not seeing is like I just worked 5 days straight, 18-hour days. Like
Mhm.
I slept 3 hours each day. Like then I'm thinking about all the other projects back home, and like it's definitely like not for everyone. But
Yeah.
I've learned to love it kind of. But yeah, I think there's with any social media, there's a facade that gets put on.
Yeah.
My wife used to get mad because I'd post like I'd be like, oh, I'm in the Mediterranean Ocean this time, and she's like, what? Like what? You don't even work out there. I was like, but I just literally worked like a 20-hour day, and I took a 2-minute walk to the water to put my toes in there, and I took a
Yeah.
picture, and I was back in the editing bay in a dark
Yeah.
room.
Influencer life.
The influencer life, right, right. And it's just it's superficial, you know, on the surface, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard balance for sure, father
Yeah.
life. And I think my kids have actually picked up, we have little cameras, like film disposable digital things that they pick
Mm.
up, and they're starting to like go around and shoot photos. Like I
So
got
sick.
some photos exposed from one of my kids that shot on it, and I was like,
Mm.
this is really cool. Like
That's
it's cool
awesome.
to see my hobbies now, they're
Yeah.
intrigued by it and picking video cameras up. And yeah, hopefully either they're maybe biking at the World Cups one day and I'm filming them, or you know, down the
Oh
road they're
yeah.
filming, you know, it's gonna be cool.
That'd be so cool. Yeah. No, I was gonna touch on that. Like my mind goes to like the role model that you fill for them. I'm sure will just be hugely impactful, right? Of like, I think it's cool that they could say my dad was so passionate about what he did, and that rubbed off on them, and can inspire them to follow a passion. Whether it's like you said, whether it's photo work, or maybe they get into mountain biking, or maybe they find something that you're like that came out of left field, but
Right, right, right.
it's cool that, yeah, just I think whenever someone follows a passion, like there's respect no matter what, right? Like you can be super stoked on, dude, it's weird. My wife's a big sourdough gal now. And I'm like,
I love
I don't fully
that.
understand it, but I'm stoked for her that she's like, doing her research and she's, experimenting with this and trying that. And just, I think passionate individuals, especially creatives, right, respect passion no matter how it's expressed.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that I didn't necessarily like. My parents were awesome, like absolutely no complaints whatsoever. But I think back then the culture was just get the 9 to 5 and then grind it out during the day and then live for the evenings, live for the weekends, live for the 2 week vacation. And I think nowadays it's just a little different. It's just a little
Far
more
different, yeah.
You see a lot more people kind of weaving in these hobbies and these side hustles, and it'll be interesting to see how that affects generations following.
Right. Well, there are a lot. It's like there's room to take your hobbies and make that your job now, or there's like access to do that. Versus like before, these like hobbies weren't seen as jobs, or you like didn't have a way to like share those things with people as much as you can now. So like everything is almost turning into a job now, which is super cool. Like things that have spurred up from it and new things that pop up, and
Yeah.
there's people making money left and right out there. So it is cool to see. But yeah, did feel, even like high school days, like life was just different. It was slower, which I enjoyed. Like COVID time,
Yeah.
I loved it. There wasn't like, you just slowed down, which is nice.
Yeah, 100%. There's moments, yeah, where I see, friends or family that maybe don't have quite the level of, I don't know, demandingness of like a passion, job, career, whatever. And I kind of look at it and I'm like, that would be kind of nice, to
Right.
like turn my brain off at 4 p.m. and then not have to turn it back on till 8 the following day.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. I deal with insomnia. So it's like I go to bed thinking, and then I just think more, and I'm like, I could edit that and I could do this. And I just, yeah, it's such a bad habit to like, but it's at the end of the day, it's just, I'm passionate about it. Like, yeah, we've been working on some projects lately. I'm just like, oh my God, this is some of like my most favorite videos, and lighting and things are clicking now. And yeah, some of the products are just so cool. The golf stuff we worked on, and yeah, every step of the way, I'm just like, ooh, that was really fun. Like, I want to do more of that. And then it's on to the next project. And
that's sick. That's super rad, man.
yeah.
Cool, dude. Well, stoked to kind of sit down and chat with you more than just, rubbing shoulders at the occasional event. It's
I
been
know.
really cool.
Hopefully more though. We got Sea Otter coming up soon, and hopefully
we'll
be out
there.
there.
I'm actually gonna miss Sea Otter. I got a family vacation, which I was bummed. lined up.
Bring him to Sea Otter. Come on. Then
I
you go to
know.
Monterey after, and then you just
Would
hop
be
a
a hard
plane there and
sell.
got to Hawaii or whatever you're going.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're going. But no, I'm sure we'll rub shoulders again soon. But no, I appreciate you taking the time to hop on for reals though. It's been dope to learn more about you and kind of see what goes on behind the lens a little bit. So.
Yeah, a lot. Too much at times. Too much. But yeah, no, I appreciate you, dude. This was sick. I definitely, I mean, if we want to do another one of these down the road, or dissect videos on the internet or something, anything, I guess I'm a talker. I like talking, so
Dude.
it's fun.
Well, it's funny. I keep surprising myself too, because I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can talk to people that long. And then
here we are 2 hours later.
2 hours in, I'm like, dude, I could talk to you for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. So
It is I mean, I've even thought about starting like a series of like just interviewing strangers.
Oh yeah.
Like off the record, if you could put this in or not, but the guy that I'm shooting with up the street, I've been shooting them for like 3 years now, but I've been documenting his process of his plane, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe it goes nowhere, but it's just a passion project. But I've like, if you ever want a good show to watch have you seen Stitz? It's with Jonah Hill. It's on Netflix, I think. But it's about him and his therapist, and he like flips the script and he interviews his therapist, and it's like literally just an interview the whole time. It's like a 2-hour movie. It's a feature length doc or whatever. And I'm like curious to almost do that with this guy of like, okay, the story's there, obviously he's building his plane, but the like story of like how we met, like over COVID, like we used to do laps around our neighborhood when my wife was pregnant, just to like get the babies moving. And I met him by way of just like, hey, this was the time like people weren't shaking hands. Like nobody wanted to be next to each other. And it just was like this hunk of metal. It looked like a dragster. I didn't know. I was like, oh, what are you building? And he's like, oh, come on in, dude. Check it out. He's showing me plans. We'd handshake. Didn't even care. So cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And he reminds me a lot of my grandpa, which is really funny. Like almost looks like my grandpa who's passed away a long time ago. And he used to fly planes. I used to be like, he used to have an airplane at a hangar. I used to go there all the time and fly with them. And so I've been intrigued by this. I don't know much about planes, but this process and story,
Oh, yeah.
super cool. And he's like almost done with it. So I might flip it and like make it that a portion of the story, but then like do this interview thing where it's like, let's talk about strangers meeting, because like there's connection with everybody somehow. You can always get deep. So it's like, oh, and that would be kind of cool, like interviewing strangers, like bring a podcast set up somewhere and just like sit down and
Dude, that
talk deep with people. Like that's what you will never figure out is like till you talk with them. And maybe that's why docs are so interesting, and like going to people like I have no idea about is like I'm coming with the approach of like, okay, I don't know, I know enough about you that I could like pick and choose what I want to go after. But then it's like I can ask you those questions where like I genuinely don't know what makes you tick or why you're here, or you know, those are the things that I think, you know, some of those experts in there are gonna like not get as deep on because they know the answer kind of already. But I'm coming from that sense of like, and maybe that's why you connect deeper, that you didn't know a ton about World Cup. I didn't either. Like there's so much behind the scenes of it, but interesting connection.
That's cool. That sounds like a rad idea.
Yeah.
I'd love to see you jump on that.
Yeah. Interview strangers. There's more stories to be told, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm with you. That's sweet. Cool, dude.
Sweet.
Well, yeah, appreciate it. So yeah, we got to have you on again later. See what the year looks like.
Very down. Yeah, I'm excited to see these come out too. You have to let me know.